Chapter 1169. Ji Tianqing looked at Xiao Han and revealed a confident smile. Miracle? I'm the best at creating miracles. Xiao Han was stunned for a moment and looked at him in disbelief. Tianqing, can you cure third elder's injury? Xiao Ling was also shocked and looked at him expectantly. Ji Tianqing nodded and asked with a smile, General, have you heard of Miracle Dr. Bailey? Xiao Han didn't know the inside story and answered honestly, of course I have. Miracle Dr. Bailey is a famous miracle doctor in the continent. He has miraculous skills and can bring the dead back to life. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, there's something you might not know. I'm Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. Ah! Xiao Ling suddenly exclaimed and her clear eyes were filled with joy. That's great. Brother Tianqing is Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. He can definitely cure third grandfather. Xiao Han also came back to his senses and revealed a gratified expression. He smiled and said, Tianqing, if you can cure third elder, I and the disciples of the third branch will remember this kindness. Thank you so much. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, it's too early to talk about gratitude. Let's go take a look at third elder's injury first. After that, the three of them left the garden and returned to Tingfeng Garden. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han went to see third elder to check on his injury. Xiao Ling was a junior and couldn't help much. She could only wait in the front yard and patiently wait for the results. Third elder knew Ji Tianqing's true identity and heard that he was Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. Naturally, he trusted him. In the secret cultivation room, he calmly accepted Ji Tianqing's examination. Moreover, he told Ji Tianqing the reason and process of his hidden injury in detail. 100 years ago, he was exploring the ancient ruins in the depths of the Great Swamp and encountered a few life and death crises. There were powerful arrays and traps in the ancient ruins. He accidentally triggered them and was severely injured and almost lost his life. In addition, he also encountered a powerful and special demonic beast. He was beaten to death and barely escaped. That demonic beast contained a strong poison that corroded his internal organs and meridians, almost turning him into a pool of blood. Ever since he escaped that disaster, he had been quietly recuperating for the past few decades to slowly alleviate his injury. However, the injury that year affected his internal organs and soul and was basically difficult to heal. Usually, he had to use more than half of his power to suppress his injury. In the past year, he had consumed too much of his energy and his old qi was damaged. Of course, his old injury. Moreover, the injury had relapsed, and the situation had become very bad. The third elder estimated that with the condition of his body, he would not live for more than 3 years. Hearing this, Xiao Han was immediately filled with worry. He asked Ji Tianqing, Tianqing, are you confident in curing third elder? Ji Tianqing thought about it seriously, then nodded and said, I have 90% confidence. That's great. Xiao Han secretly clenched his fist and excitedly praised. The third elder also felt that it was inconceivable. His old face was flushed with excitement. Tianqing, can I really be saved? Ji Tianqing nodded and smiled. Third elder, you don't have to worry. Although your injury is troublesome, it is not an incurable disease. Please lie on the cold ice jade bed and enter a state of deep sleep. I have to start treating your injury as soon as possible. The third elder saw the hope of life. Of course, he was full of excitement and expectation. He lay on the cold ice jade bed according to his instructions. Xiao Han rubbed his hands excitedly and quickly asked, Tianqing, do you need my help? Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, no need. You can wait outside the secret room. Don't let anyone disturb me. Okay, don't worry. Xiao Han nodded and quickly left the secret room to guard outside the door. In the dark secret room, only Ji Tianqing and the third elder were left. The third elder had entered a state of deep sleep and isolated all his senses. This way, he wouldn't feel any pain when Ji Tianqing treated his injury. Ji Tianqing first used the secret technique of the Wood Emperor's umbrella to treat the third elder's injury. Then, He transferred boundless greenwood magic power to the third elder and fed him a few soul-grade elixirs. After the third elder's injury was mostly healed, he used the heaven-mending pearl to remove the remaining poison in the third elder's body and repair his internal organs and soul. This process was very slow and would take a long time. But he had enough patience to treat the third elder's injury bit by bit. Unknowingly, 4 hours had passed and night had fallen. In the manner of the Shao clan's second branch, the lights were brightly lit. In an antique study, a middle-aged man in a purple robe was sitting. This man was tall and sturdy and had a dignified appearance. He had a mustache and exuded the aura of an expert. He was the son of the second branch's elder, Shao Zhan, the next elder's successor. He was engrossed in reading a book when the study's door was opened. A young man with swollen cheeks like a pig's head walked into the study with weak steps. His entire body was wrapped in anger and resentment. "Father, you must avenge me." The young man was Shao Chong. He walked quickly to Shao Zhan and shouted angrily. His tone and eyes were filled with anger and resentment. Shao Zhan put down the book in his hand and turned to look at Shao Chong. He frowned when he saw Shao Chong's miserable appearance. "Chong, what happened to you? Who beat you up like this?" Shao Chong's eyes surged with cold light. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "It's the bastard from the third branch. He sided with Shao Ling, and Shao Ling's lover and beat me and Shao Ku, bastard." Shao Zhan slammed the table in anger and shouted angrily, "The third branch is too presumptuous. How dare they beat up my son? Chong, do you know that person's name? Tell me, I won't let him off." Shao Chong thought for a moment and quickly replied, "That guy is an elder from the third branch. I think he's called Shao Han." "What did you say?" Shao Zhan's eyes widened. He asked in a panicked tone, "You said the person who beat you is called Shao Han?" "That's right. It's that bastard." Shao Chong didn't notice the change in his father's expression. He still cursed angrily, "That bastard is too arrogant. He beat us up in front of Shao Ling, and her lover, and even clamored for us to kneel down and apologize. He even said that he wants you to find him and apologize. This guy is really crazy. Who does he think he is?" Shao Zhan's expression changed drastically. He shouted in a deep voice, "Shut up. You bastard, are you crazy?" Shao Chong raised his head in confusion and asked, "Father, what's wrong with you? Did you take the wrong medicine? That bastard beat me up and humiliated you. Why are you scolding me?" Shao Zhan furiously raised his right hand and slapped Shao Chong's face with a "pa" sound. Chapter 1170. Shao Chong was slapped in the face and fell to the ground. His face was already swollen like a pig's head, and after being slapped by Shao Zhan, it split open and started bleeding. He fell to the ground and covered his bleeding face with his hands, looking at Shao Zhan in disbelief. "You hit me. That bastard from the third branch hit me, and not only did you not avenge me, you hit me. You don't deserve to be my father." Shao Chong was trembling with anger. He stared at Shao Zhan with cold eyes and roared in a low voice. Shao Zhan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He stood up with a bang, and his whole body was filled with rage. He scolded in a low voice, "Bastard, are you still so stubborn? Wake up for me and think carefully about the name Shao Han." "What do I have to think about?" Shao Chong stared back at him and roared even more furiously, "Isn't he just a bastard from the third branch? Isn't he just living for a few more decades? You always brag about how powerful you are, but now that your son is being bullied, you don't even dare to fart. You only dare to hit me. I'm going to tell my mother, and I'm going to the law hall to ask the law elder to judge for me." As he spoke, Shao Chong got up from the ground and was about to rush out of the study. "Get back here." Shao Zhan was so angry that his face turned purple. He waved his sleeves and pulled Shao Chong back. He grabbed Shao Chong's collar and shouted angrily, "Shao Chong! Are you trying to get us killed? Calm down and think about who Xiao Han is. He's the pride of the Xiao clan, the pillar of the Xiao clan. Is he someone you and I can offend? The agitated Xiao Chong suddenly thought of something when he heard Xiao Zhan's reminder. Xiao Han. Xiao Han. Is he that Dong Lin divine general? Xiao Zhan shouted in a cold voice, nonsense. Who else could it be? It's him. Xiao Chong was dumbfounded. He stood there with his mouth agape, and the anger in his heart disappeared. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. He felt cold from head to toe, and even his back was cold. Xiao Han was the pride of the Xiao clan. He was also a peerless expert that was worshipped by the younger generation. Most importantly, the top 2 scorers of the Holy Fire Festival would be brought out of the Xiao clan by Xiao Han to receive care and training. However, he had already made a mistake and had been slapped twice by Xiao Han. However, he still clamored at Xiao Han and refused to let him off. He even wanted to look for the law elder to reason things out. After such a thing had happened, what was Xiao Han's impression of him? Would he still support and nurture him? Thinking of this, Xiao Chong suddenly collapsed on the chair and murmured in a daze, "This is impossible. How was this possible? How could there be such a coincidence? Why?" He had not returned to the Xiao clan for decades. Why did he return today? He didn't know Xiao Linger at all, so why would he protect Xiao Linger? No. I can't accept this. Xiao Zhan also gradually calmed down. With a grave expression, he said, "Chonger, tell me everything that happened. Don't leave out anything." Xiao Chong was filled with fear. Of course, he did not dare to hide the truth, nor did he dare to exaggerate. He could only tell the truth. After he finished telling the whole story, Xiao Zhan heaved a sigh of relief. He nodded and said, "Although you and Xiao Ku are at fault, there is still room for redemption. This is a grudge between you, Xiao Ku, Xiao Linger, and Xiao Tianqing. It is a matter of the younger generation. Fortunately, you did not directly clash with Xiao Han. Now, follow me to Tingfeng Garden and apologize to Xiao Han in person." Ah! Xiao Chong was stunned. He said in disbelief, "Father, are we really going to swallow this and apologize to Xiao Han? There are so many people in the clan watching. If we go and apologize, this matter will spread throughout the Xiao clan tomorrow. At that time, we will be the laughingstock of the entire clan. We will be ridiculed for life." Xiao Zhan glared at him angrily and scolded, "Bastard! Until now, do you still not understand the importance of this matter? Compared to the status and resources we already have, what is this little bit of face? Besides, how could it be considered shameful to offer a humble apology to Divine General Dong Lin? Not only us, who in the 9th branch can afford to offend him." Xiao Chong was silent. He was still hesitating. Xiao Zhan did not allow him to think too much. He grabbed his neck and dragged him out of the study, rushing to Tingfeng Garden. Tingfeng Garden was brightly lit. The night was quiet. Xiao Han was standing in a dark stone passage. Behind him was the door to the secret chamber. He had been waiting outside the secret chamber for a few hours. He paced back and forth, praying silently in his heart, "Tianqing, you must succeed. Third uncle's health is deteriorating. The 3rd branch's position is in danger. If you can cure third uncle's injury, then you can let the 3rd branch continue to exist, and you can also fulfill my wish." At this moment, a guard hurried over and reported respectfully, "Divine General, there is someone in the main hall who wishes to see you." Xiao Han raised his eyebrows and asked, "Who wants to see me in the middle of the night?" The guard replied truthfully, "It is Xiao Zhan from the 2nd branch. He brought his son Xiao Chong. They said they are here to apologize to you." The father and son are both shirtless and carrying thorns on their backs. They are kneeling in the main hall. Xiao Han frowned and thought for a moment. Ignore them. Let them kneel for a while. He was only worried about the 3rd elder's injury. He could not be bothered with the father and son. The guard hurriedly turned and left, not daring to disturb him. Very quickly, another 2 hours had passed. There was still no movement in the secret chamber. Xiao Han was still pacing back and forth, anxiously waiting. At this time, the guard returned and reported to Xiao Han again, reporting to Divine General, "There are 2 more people here to see you." Xiao Zhan frowned unhappily and asked, "Who is it this time?" The guard replied, "It is Xiao Ku and his son. They are also shirtless and carrying thorns on their backs. They are kneeling in the main hall and asking for forgiveness." Xiao Han frowned and sneered disdainfully, "These guys are quite sensible. They really don't care about their reputation and come here to apologize. Since that is the case, I will teach them an unforgettable lesson." After that, he instructed the guard, "Go and tell them to kneel in the main hall until dawn. They are not allowed to leave. Tell them to take care of their own children. Don't be a tyrant in the Shao clan. Otherwise, sooner or later, they will be in big trouble." The guard acknowledged the order and hurriedly left. Xiao Han did not take this matter to heart. He continued to pace outside the secret chamber, paying attention to the movements in the secret chamber. He silently calculated in his heart. Ji Tianqing had said that he could cure the 3rd elder's injury before dawn. It was already dawn. In another 4 hours, the sun would rise. Chapter 1171. The night was dark and the cold wind was blowing. The main hall of the Tingfeng garden was quiet. The gemstone lamp on the wall was shining with a dim yellow light. There were 4 guards outside the door. There were no guards inside the main hall, but there were 4 men kneeling in the middle of the hall. The 4 of them were bare-chested. Their hair was loose behind their backs and there were several thorny vines on their backs. They were led by 2 middle-aged men. They were both in the 7th or 8th level of Sky Origin stage. They looked dignified and extraordinary. They were the fathers of Xiao Zhan and Xiao Ku. The other 2 young men had swollen cheeks like balloons. They looked embarrassed and funny. Without a doubt, they were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. Xiao Zhan and Xiao Ku's fathers were kneeling in front. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were kneeling behind their fathers. The 4 of them were kneeling without moving. They lowered their heads and looked like they were waiting to be punished. The cold night wind blew into the hall, messing up the 4 people's hair. The cold air assaulted their bodies, causing them to shiver uncontrollably. However, they did not dare to move. The 4 of them looked terrible. Their emotions were complicated and their eyes kept changing. The reason why they had such a reaction was because a guard had come to convey Xiao Han's message. Damn Xiao Han. He didn't want to see us and made us kneel until dawn. Xiao Zhan whispered and said angrily, "Even if he is the Donglin Divine General, he is still a disciple of the Xiao clan. We can't forget our roots. He can show off outside, but he dares to be so arrogant in the clan. He has gone too far." Xiao Ku's father also agreed. He whispered, "This is just a grudge between the younger generation. Is there a need to make it so serious? Xiao Han is too protective. He humiliated us in order to protect his nephew." Xiao Zhan said with a gloomy expression, "I originally thought that Xiao Han would forgive us just because we came to ask for forgiveness and put on an act. That would be the end of this matter. I didn't expect Xiao Han to be so heartless. He made us kneel for a whole night. When news of this spreads, everyone in the clan will laugh at us." Xiao Ku's father smiled bitterly and whispered, "But we are already here. We can't just leave, can we? If that's the case, not only will we be humiliated for nothing, this matter won't be resolved, and will offend Xiao Han even more." Xiao Zhan sighed and said, "Yeah. Since we've already come to confess, we should finish what we started. I hope we can resolve this matter completely. There are still 4 more hours before daybreak. Let's endure it a little longer." Xiao Ku's father nodded and remained silent. Behind the 2 of them, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were also communicating with their eyes and discussing with each other via voice transmission. "Xiao Ku, what happened to your face? Why are your injuries more serious than before? Don't mention it. I went back and told my father about this and asked him to avenge me. I didn't expect him to slap me twice in anger. Xiao Chong, aren't you the same? Humph. It's all that bastard Xiao Han's fault. He hasn't come back for over 20 years, but he suddenly came back yesterday. He's a senior, a dignified divine general of the East Woods, but he dares to attack a junior. He doesn't care about his status at all. He doesn't have the demeanor of an expert at all. Yes. Xiao Han, this fellow was too overprotective. He was simply unreasonable. Unfortunately, he has a high position and great power. None of us can afford to offend him. I'm so angry. Humph. We can't afford to offend Xiao Han, but can't we afford to offend his nephew? That guy called Tian Xing looked like an idiot who had a golden exterior but was actually rotten inside. That guy only knows how to boast and deceive girls with flowery words. He doesn't even have the guts to fight with us. What a piece of trash. What ability does he have? Isn't he just relying on Xiao Han's protection? He actually dares to show off in our clan and seduce Xiao Linger. He deserves to die. Xiao Ku, we have to find a chance to teach that guy a lesson these few days. We have to make him lose face and run out of the Xiao clan with his tail between his legs. That's right. I also hate him to the core. I can't wait to step on him and crush him to death in front of everyone. But, we have to plan carefully. We can't leave any evidence behind. Otherwise, Xiao Han will punish us again. Let's meet up tomorrow and find a few more brothers to discuss this matter together. 2 pairs of father and son and 4 Sky Origin stage experts knelt in the main hall silently, each with their own thoughts. Time passed silently, and 4 hours passed very quickly. The sky outside the main hall finally lit up. The sky was bright. The 2 pairs of father and son had knelt in the main hall for the whole night. Their hearts were filled with anger and resentment. Seeing that the sky was finally bright, the 4 of them were finally free. They all let out a long breath. They quickly got up and walked out of the main hall. They left Tingfeng Garden as if they were escaping. At the same time, Xiao Han, who was pacing back and forth outside the secret chamber, finally stopped. The heavy door of the secret chamber suddenly made a muffled sound and slowly opened. Xiao Han immediately turned around and looked into the secret chamber with bright eyes. His face was full of anticipation. When the door of the secret chamber opened, Ji Tianxing, who was wearing a white robe, walked out tiredly. Xiao Han quickly went up to him and asked expectantly, "Tianxing, how is it?" Ji Tianxing nodded and smiled. Third Elder's injuries are 80% healed. It's not a big problem. He will be completely healed after a few more months of rest. Hearing this, Xiao Han's eyes lit up and he clenched his fists excitedly. That's great. Tianxing, you are indeed the disciple of the godly doctor. You actually cured Third Elder's hidden injuries that have troubled him for more than 100 years. Thank you so much. I, Xiao Han, will remember your kindness in my heart and will never forget it. As he spoke, Xiao Han sincerely bowed to him, expressing his most sincere gratitude. Ji Tianxing helped him up and smiled. You don't have to be so courteous. You helped me enter the Xiao clan and I helped you to cure Third Elder. This is also my way of returning the favor. Alright, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going back to my room to rest. Alright. You must have been tired last night. I'll send someone to bring you to rest. Xiao Han quickly called for a guard and brought Ji Tianxing to rest. He then entered the secret chamber to check on Third Elder's condition. He saw that Third Elder was still lying on the ice bed in deep sleep. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of faint green light. His originally aged skin had regained its jade-white luster. His withered and yellow face had also become younger by a few decades. It was as though he had regained his youth. The hidden injuries and deadly poisons hidden in his body had all been removed. Not only that, Third Elder's strength had also recovered to its peak state. His aura was very stable and powerful. He was like a normal second-level soul cultivation realm expert. There was no difference. Before last night, he was still in his twilight years with only 3 years of life left. But now, he was full of energy and vitality. It would not be a problem for him to live another 500 years. This was simply an unbelievable miracle. Chapter 1172. Not long after, the green light on Third Elder's body dissipated. He woke up from his deep slumber and slowly opened his eyes. Xiao Han hurriedly approached him and asked with concern, "Third uncle, you're finally awake. How do you feel?" It was as if the Third Elder had fallen asleep. He didn't know what had happened. Where's Tianqing? Has the treatment ended? He sat up from the frozen jade bed, moved his limbs, and used his soul to check the condition of his body. With one look, he was instantly stunned. Oh my God! My injuries are all healed? Isn't this too unbelievable? Where's Tianqing? Did he really heal all of my injuries? The Third Elder let out a cry of surprise as he touched his body to check the condition of his body. He also found that his skin was no longer old, and his appearance had returned to his youth. Even the magic power in his body was surging, and his vitality was boundless. Even if he lived for another 500 years, he would not age like before. Such a huge change made him so excited that he could not control himself. He was so excited that his face was flushed red, and his eyes were covered with a layer of mist. If it did not happen to him, how could he believe in such a miracle? Third Elder was so excited that he could not control himself. He jumped down from the frozen jade bed, grabbed Xiao Han's arm with both hands, and said excitedly, "Xiao Han. Third uncle has been tormented by hidden injuries for more than 100 years. I always thought that I would reach the end of my life after 300 years. This is too unbelievable. Tianqing actually saved me. I don't have any injuries on my body, as if I've returned to my youth." Seeing Third Elder so excited, Xiao Han also felt the same. He nodded and said, "Third uncle, Tianqing is not only the #1 genius of our clan, but also the #1 genius of the entire Tianxian continent. He has already created countless miracles, and now he healed your injuries in one night. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but no matter what miracles he creates, I won't be surprised. Because, I've already been shocked to the point of numbness by the various miracles he has created." The Third Elder nodded his head repeatedly and exhorted in a solemn tone, "Xiao Han, you are the most outstanding disciple of our Xiao clan in the past 300 years. You are also the pride of our clan. However, it's your fortune to be able to befriend Tianqing. It's also our Xiao clan's fortune. Let me warn you, you must maintain a good relationship with him in the future. No matter what, don't offend him." Xiao Han chuckled and shook his head, "Third uncle, you worry too much. Tianqing is definitely not a fish in a pond. One day, he will transform into a true dragon and soar into the 9 heavens. Why would I offend him for no reason? Moreover, I know Tianqing's character the best. As long as we don't challenge his bottom line, he won't be our enemy." Hearing him say so, Third Elder was relieved and hurriedly urged, "Xiao Han, quickly bring me to see Tianqing. I must thank him in person." As he spoke, he pulled Xiao Han and was about to leave the secret chamber. Halfway through, he suddenly thought of something. "Oh, right. We can't go empty-handed. I have to prepare a generous gift to show my sincerity." Xiao Han hurriedly pulled him and persuaded with a smile, "Third uncle, Tianqing was busy last night and consumed too much of his spiritual power. He is now recuperating and adjusting his breath. Even if you want to thank him in person, you have to do it another day, right?" Third Elder was stunned for a moment. He slapped his forehead and said with a wry smile, "Oh, that's true. Look at my memory. I'm so old and muddle-headed that I forgot about it when I was happy. All right, let Tianqing rest for a day. Tomorrow, you accompany me to thank him in person." Xiao Han thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Third uncle, Tianqing told me before that after you wake up, you should refine magic weapons for Ling, and Chen first. The Holy Fire Festival is in 2 days. If you delay any longer, I'm afraid it will be too late. This third elder was stunned for a moment and said with some hesitation, "It's not a problem to refine magic weapons for them, but if I want to thank Tianqing in person, won't I have to postpone it for a few days?" Xiao Han nodded and said, "Yes, this matter is not urgent. You can refine magic weapons for the 2 juniors first." "Alright, then tell them to bring the materials to see me in the workshop." Third elder also knew the importance of this matter and hurriedly instructed Xiao Han. Xiao Han responded and hurriedly sent someone to inform Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling. Then, he accompanied third elder and rushed to the workshop in the depths of Tingfeng Garden. In a courtyard in the corner of Tingfeng Garden. It was early in the morning. A few young men and women were practicing sword techniques in the courtyard. There were also a few older young men and women sitting cross-legged under the great banyan tree, quietly meditating and practicing. These were the Shao clan's disciples from the 3rd branch. All of them were outstanding talents with high martial talent. Xiao Ling, and Xiao Chen were the leaders of the 3rd branch. They were also the most outstanding geniuses. At this moment, the 2 of them were standing under the roof, observing their younger brothers and sisters practicing sword techniques while conversing softly. Xiao Chen looked at Xiao Ling, and asked with a heart full of expectation, "Sister Ling, did that young master really say that?" "Of course." Xiao Ling nodded and said with a frown, "What do you mean by that young master?" "His name is Tianqing." "He has a name, okay?" Tianqing did not put Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku in his eyes at all. I can see that Tianqing looked at them as if he was looking at 2 ants. I swear on my character that he was not deliberately mystifying them. His contempt came from the bottom of his heart and soul. Only a peerless genius would have such confidence. Confidence and arrogance that comes from the soul. Xiao Chen scratched his head and said with some hesitation, "We have all seen Tianqing's strength with our own eyes. He is indeed a transcendent spirit refinement realm expert. Even if you say that he is the number 1 genius in the world, I will not deny it. However, 3rd grandpa is already injured to such an extent. How can Tianqing cure him? Tianqing is so young. Even if his martial talent is extraordinary, is he proficient in medicine? 3rd grandpa's internal injuries have been for more than 100 years. So many elders and experts in the clan could not cure him. How can Tianqing do it?" Xiao Ling, glared at him unhappily and shouted angrily, "Xiao Chen. Which side are you on? Don't you want 3rd grandpa to get better?" "Humph. I think you are just jealous of big brother Tianqing. You are jealous that he is more handsome, younger, and stronger than you." Xiao Chen's face immediately turned green as he looked at her speechlessly. At this moment, a guard rushed over and reported respectfully, "Miss Ling, young Master Chen, Lord Divine General summoned you to the forging workshop. Lord Divine General has instructed you to bring the materials for refining weapons, and 3rd elder will immediately refine the magic weapons for you." Suddenly hearing this news, Xiao Ling, and Xiao Chen were dumbfounded. They were petrified on the spot. After a moment, Xiao Ling, was the first to recover. She immediately jumped up in excitement and cheered excitedly. "Wow! Big brother Tianqing really did it. He really cured 3rd grandpa." Xiao Chen's eyes widened in shock. His face was filled with disbelief. He looked up at the sky with lifeless eyes and cried out involuntarily, "Oh my God! That guy actually created a miracle? He is so strong and his medical skills are so heaven-defying. Is he still human?" As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Ling, glared at him and even stomped on his foot. "Hey! How can you say that? If big brother Tianqing is not human, then what is he?" After saying that, she angrily flung her sleeves and stepped out of the house, walking out of the courtyard. Chapter 1173. Xiao Chen explained to Xiao Ling along the way. Unknowingly, they arrived at the blacksmithing workshop. Just as the two of them arrived at the entrance of the workshop, they saw 4 guards standing guard outside the door. The place was heavily guarded. Spiritual energy fluctuations kept coming from the blacksmithing workshop. There were also surging berserk earth flame essence chi flickering continuously. Clearly, the previously quiet blacksmithing workshop was finally going to start refining. The last bit of worry in Xiao Chen's heart vanished without a trace. When Xiao Chen followed Xiao Ling into the blacksmithing workshop, he saw Xiao Han standing in the hall. Not far away, there was a 30-meter-tall black cauldron wrapped in a layer of 5-colored spiritual light. Intense flames kept rising from the cauldron. The hale and hearty third elder with a head full of white hair stood in the air above the black cauldron. He continuously sent out beams of light with his palms, injecting vast magic energy into the cauldron. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling looked up at the third elder. When they saw that he looked 10 years younger, brimming with energy and vast magic energy, they immediately revealed expressions of disbelief. If they had not seen it for themselves, the two would not have believed that the third elder had undergone such a drastic change in just one night. This was simply inconceivable. At the same time, Xiao Han shouted with a dignified expression, "What are the two of you still standing there for? Don't waste time. Quickly hand over the materials and let the third elder refine the magic treasure for you." Only then did the two recover their wits. They quickly took out the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-modeled beast, as well as several sets of metal materials from their spatial rings. Xiao Han waved his hand and sent out a beam of 5-colored light, sweeping up all the materials and handing them to the third elder. "All right, you can go out now. Before the Holy Fire Festival starts, come here to collect your magic treasures." Xiao Han waved his sleeves and said with a dignified expression. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were filled with excitement. They immediately bowed and expressed their gratitude to Xiao Han and the third elder. After that, the two left the blacksmithing workshop, filled with joy and anticipation. On the way back to his residence, Xiao Chen still had a smile on his face. After he obtained the magic treasure, he would be able to suppress everyone in the Holy Fire Festival and become the champion. However, Xiao Ling's beautiful eyes flickered. A crafty look flashed in her clear eyes. She pretended to be calm and said, "Xiao Chen, you can go back first. I have something to do and will be leaving for a while." With that, she turned to leave. Xiao Chen immediately stopped and asked in confusion, "Little sister Ling, where are you going?" "The night after tomorrow is the Holy Fire Festival. The third elder is refining magic treasures for us. We should prepare well." "Oh, you must be looking for young Master Tianqing, right?" Xiao Linger instantly frowned and glared at him angrily. "What does it have to do with you? Go prepare yourself." As she spoke, she quickly ran away, and her figure quickly disappeared at the end of the bluestone path. Xiao Chen stood in place and looked at her back as she left. He felt a little sour in his heart. He muttered in a somewhat desolate manner, "Why does little sister Ling look like she is going to meet her lover? Did she really fall in love with that guy? If that's the case, I wonder how many young disciples will be heartbroken." As soon as he finished speaking, he shook his head with a bitter smile, turned around, and left. Xiao Linger asked around in Tingfeng Garden and found out that Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han lived in Pine Tree Courtyard. This courtyard had a quiet and secluded environment and was filled with spiritual energy. It was one of the best courtyards in Tingfeng Garden. Only the most distinguished people could live in it. Normally, juniors like Xiao Linger and Xiao Chen did not have the qualifications to come here. When she entered Pine Tree Courtyard and stood outside Ji Tianqing's room, she was immediately stopped by 2 guards. One of them bowed to Xiao Linger and said expressionlessly, "Miss Ling, our clan's distinguished guest lives here. Please do not disturb him." Xiao Linger had already expected this. She said seriously, "I don't need you to remind me. I am here on Uncle Xiao Han's orders to find Big Brother Tianqing to discuss some matters. Move aside." She was exceptionally intelligent and had a nimble mind. Lying was naturally easy for her. The 2 guards looked at each other, not daring to confirm if her words were true or false. After hesitating for a moment, they could only step back and move aside. "Miss Ling, please." Xiao Ling revealed a faint smile. She pushed open the door and entered the room. The room was very quiet. There was no one in the spacious and bright living room. There was also no one in the side bedroom and study. Xiao Ling walked around the room, but she did not see Ji Tianqing anywhere. Big brother Tianqing clearly lives here. He should be in his room. Where did he go? She muttered doubtfully. Suddenly, a calm and gentle voice sounded from behind her. "Miss Ling, are you looking for me?" This voice sounded abruptly and right next to her ear. It immediately gave Xiao Ling a fright. She suddenly turned around and saw that Ji Tianqing had appeared behind her without her knowing. He was so quiet that she did not notice him at all. Ji Tianqing still looked the same as before. He was wearing a white robe, his long hair reached his waist, and his entire body emitted a transcendent and noble aura. The corner of his mouth held a faint smile. At that moment, Xiao Ling looked at him from such a close distance and was actually somewhat stunned. Only when Ji Tianqing stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes did she come back to her senses. She hurriedly lowered her head. Her expression was slightly embarrassed and shy. She explained somewhat uneasily, "Big brother Tianqing, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. He still had a calm expression as he said, "It's fine. I just finished recuperating. If you have something to say, just say it." Xiao Ling was suddenly speechless. Her heartbeat sped up again. She did not know what to say. Previously, she was only agitated for a moment and wanted to find Ji Tianqing to thank him in person. But now that she saw Ji Tianqing, her mind went blank and she forgot about this matter. Ji Tianqing could not help but reveal a smile when he saw that she was usually mischievous but slightly stupid in front of him. "Miss Ling, you probably came to find me to thank me in person, right?" Right. Xiao Ling only remembered the reason after he reminded her. She hurriedly nodded and said, "I just wanted to thank Big Brother Tianqing in person." Ji Tianqing said with a calm expression, "It's nothing. You don't have to thank me." Xiao Ling was at a loss again. Her beautiful eyes looked around, but she did not know what to say. However, Ji Tianqing looked at her with a smile, waiting for her to get down to business. This made her feel even more awkward and uneasy. Finally, Ji Tianqing took the initiative to speak. "Miss Ling, this is my first time in the Xiao clan. I have nothing to do and want to take a stroll outside. Can you be my guide?" Xiao Ling eyes immediately lit up. She hurriedly nodded and said, "Of course I'm willing. It's Ling-er's honor to be able to serve Big Brother Tianqing." She happily agreed and hurriedly brought Ji Tianqing out of the pine tree courtyard and strolled around Tingfeng Garden. The two of them chatted as they walked. It did not take long for them to walk around Tingfeng Garden. Hence, under Ji Tianqing's request, Xiao Ling brought him out of Tingfeng Garden. Chapter 1174. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling flew through the Xiao clan, crossing several mountain ranges and plains. Every time they passed by a place, Xiao Ling would tell Ji Tianqing about the interesting things that happened in those places when she was young. 2 hours later, the two of them were a few hundred miles away from the breezing garden and stopped at a dark green mountain. The two of them landed in the valley and looked up at the tall mountain. They saw a silver waterfall pouring down from the peak of the mountain. The 300-meter-wide torrent poured down with a rumbling sound, splashing up a mist that filled the sky and creating a loud rumbling sound in the valley. The sunlight shone on the jade-white waterfall, reflecting a dazzling radiance. It looked exceptionally dreamy and blurred. Xiao Ling pointed at the majestic waterfall and the deep pool below it. She smiled and said, "Big Brother Tianqing, this is the Flying Star Waterfall. We often played here when we were young." Back then, everyone liked to come here to play in the water and dive into the deep pool to catch fish. Later on, when we grew up, we practiced our swordsmanship and inner strength under the waterfall. Those 2 years were too tough. Now that I think about it, it still feels like yesterday. Xiao Ling'er's face revealed a look of reminiscence. Her smile was very sincere and clean. Ji Tianqing nodded and said emotionally, "Every martial arts genius has a story of extraordinary hardships behind them. The sharpness of a treasured sword is sharpened, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. Only martial artists who never admit defeat and have gone through countless trials and tribulations can become experts." Xiao Ling'er nodded in agreement. She looked up at his face and asked with bright eyes, "Big brother Tianqing, can you tell me about your past?" Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a smile. "My story? There are too many. Which one do you want to hear?" Xiao Ling'er thought for a while and said with a smile, "When I was 15 or 16. Ji Tianqing's body trembled, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He was about to reject her when the sound of something breaking through the air came from the entrance of the valley. 6 young martial artists in luxurious clothes flew across the sky at lightning speed and landed in the valley. Swish! 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 The 6 of them landed beside Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling'er, surrounding the 2 of them. Xiao Ling'er's expression instantly went grim when she saw these 6 young disciples, and her beautiful face was covered in frost. The 6 of them were the best in the 2nd branch and the 5th branch of Xiao clan. They were all in their early 20s and had reached the 3rd level of Sky Origin stage. The 2 people in the lead were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. Though their cheeks were no longer swollen and funny as they had been the day before. However, a few bloodstains could still be seen on their faces. The 2 of them stared coldly at Ji Tianqing, sneering. "Brat, just now, this young master's informant came to report that you and Xiao Ling'er walked out of Tingfeng Garden together." This young master didn't quite believe it. "I didn't expect you to be so thick-skinned and shameless. You've progressed so quickly. Little brat, you had Xiao Han's protection yesterday. Now that you've fallen into our hands, let's see if you still dare to be arrogant. Aren't you arrogant? Aren't you famous? Aren't you envied and challenged wherever you go? Come on, if you're a man, then repeat what you said yesterday." The 2 of them had a manic aura, and their eyes were surging with anger and killing intent. As soon as the 2 of them finished speaking, the other 4 young men from Xiao clan burst into laughter. The 4 of them held onto their swords and stared maliciously at Ji Tianqing with mocking sneers on their faces. Seeing this, Xiao Ling'er was instantly enraged. She berated with a frosty face, "Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku. Wasn't yesterday's lesson enough? The 2 of you clearly know brother Tianqing's identity, yet you still dare to seek revenge so insolently. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Hall of Law?" Xiao Chong glared at her fiercely and sneered, "Humph. What bullshit identity? Isn't he just relying on Xiao Han's protection? Without Xiao Han's presence, this brat is just a piece of trash. Other than bragging and using flowery words to deceive a silly girl like you, what else does he have?" Xiao Ku also sneered and said, "If it weren't for this brat, why would we be in such a sorry state? The humiliation we suffered last night will pay him back in double today." Xiao Ling'er was instantly enraged. She pointed at the 2 of them and berated, "Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, don't forget that the clan rules forbid private fights. Don't tell me you want to be expelled from the clan? Huh, what do you mean by private fight?" Xiao Chong sneered and said fearlessly, "We were just curious about the Xiao clan's branch disciple and wanted to have a friendly spar with him. Don't worry, we won't kill him. As long as he kneels down and kowtows to me, I'll spare his life." Xiao Ku also grinned and said with a hideous smile, "Tianqing Xiao, as long as you kowtow to the 6 of us and get out of the Xiao clan, we'll spare you." The 2's ugly faces made Xiao Ling'er tremble in anger. She scolded in a cold tone, "You bunch of beasts that are worse than pigs and dogs. The Hall of Law will definitely punish you severely." Xiao Chong sneered in disdain, this place is a few hundred miles away from the Hall of Law. Other than us, who would know what happened? Even if you went to complain to the Hall of Law, would he believe the two of you or the six of us? Do you think that the Hall of Law will be like you, helping an outsider and helping a lowly branch disciple? The word lowly deeply provoked Xiao Ling, causing her to be enraged. She subconsciously wanted to draw her sword. Xiao Chong. How dare you insult Big Brother Tianqing? I'll fight it out with you. In her heart, Ji Tianqing was a graceful and elegant young master in a chaotic world. He was also a peerless genius, a peerless prodigy that couldn't be blasphemed. However, just as she was about to pull out her sword, a broad and powerful palm gently pressed down on her weak shoulder. That palm was very warm, but it was as heavy as a mountain, causing her to be unable to move. She turned her head to look to the side and saw Ji Tianqing looking at her with a smile on his face. He said in a gentle tone, "It's not worth it to get angry with a bunch of beasts. They aren't worthy." Seeing Ji Tianqing smile and hearing his voice, Xiao Ling didn't know why, but the rage in her heart actually instantly dissipated, and her entire heart calmed down. She was filled with confidence towards Ji Tianqing, and her heart was filled with a sense of security. She believed that as long as he was by her side, even if the sky collapsed, he would support it with one arm. This was the magic on his body, the charm that he possessed. However, a burst of ear-piercing mocking laughter interrupted her thoughts and also destroyed the beautiful atmosphere. Ha ha ha. Brothers, quickly look. This fellow is still pretending when he's about to die. Tisk tsk, hearing about him really can't compare to meeting him in person. This kid is simply arrogant to the point of being out of control. Humph. I think that this fellow is a madman. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the others all had faces full of contempt and ridicule as they discussed. Chapter 1175. Ji Tianqing's words made everyone quiet down instantly. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest were stunned as they looked at him strangely. After a while, everyone came back to their senses and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. This guy is really crazy. I think he even forgot his own surname, right? I've learned something new. I've never seen such a pretentious person in my life. Look at how serious his expression is when he's bragging. Even he believes it himself. I'm completely convinced. This guy is already possessed. The crowd roared with laughter as they mercilessly mocked him. Ji Tianqing's expression was still indifferent as he said in a cold tone, "I originally didn't want to bother with you bunch of clowns, but you pestered me again and again. Then I can only give you a lesson that you'll never forget." Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest burst into laughter again. The expressions on their faces became more and more ferocious, and the murderous aura on their bodies became heavier. But at this moment, Ji Tianqing's expression suddenly changed. He stood on the spot without moving. His hands were behind his back, and he had the posture of a powerhouse. But a dazzling white light gushed out of his body and instantly divided into 6 parts, enveloping Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest. Swoosh! Within the white light, there was a vast and majestic soul energy. It immediately invaded the bodies of the 6 people and fiercely suppressed their souls. Suddenly, the laughter of the 6 people stopped abruptly. The expressions on their faces immediately stiffened, and their bodies also seemed to have been petrified. They had no idea what had happened. They only felt as if their souls were struck by lightning. Their minds went blank on the spot, and they lost the ability to think. In the next moment, unparalleled pain came from the depths of their souls, causing their bodies to tremble like a sieve. Their legs went soft, and they knelt on the ground. Ah! The 6 people were suffering the most terrifying pain in their lives. They were terrified to the extreme, and their faces were distorted as they screamed miserably. Cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. As they screamed miserably, they frantically kowtowed to Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling. Their heads fiercely hit the ground, making banging sounds. In just a few breaths of time, the ground was dented by their heads, and a few bluestones were smashed into powder. Everyone kowtowed until their heads were full of blood. Their bodies were soaked in cold sweat, and hot yellow water was also coming out of their pants. They looked extremely miserable. Xiao Ling was dumbstruck at that moment. Her clear eyes opened wide, and her heart was filled with shock. She simply couldn't believe that these 6 fellows who were incomparably arrogant just a moment ago were now crazily kowtowing and begging for mercy as if they had seen the most terrifying demon god in the world. This was just too dreamy. Ji Tianqing looked at the crowd expressionlessly. His eyes were as calm as water, without the slightest ripple. A bunch of trash. I haven't even made a move yet, and you're already so scared. How pitiful. His voice was indifferent as he spoke. After which, he turned around and left with Xiao Linger. Even when he and Xiao Linger flew out of the valley and disappeared into the horizon, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the others were still kneeling on the ground, frantically kowtowing in pain and fear. After a long while, everyone finally regained their senses and hurriedly got up from the ground. They were all still in shock as they sized each other up. They saw that everyone's faces were covered in blood, and their hair was disheveled. Moreover, their clothes were soaked, and they were emitting the stench of feces and urine. They were simply in an extremely sorry state. Everyone recalled Ji Tianqing's words and instantly felt extremely humiliated. They even had the thought of committing suicide. Ah! My illustrious reputation is all ruined. Xiao Tianqing. I'll never let you go, you bastard. Bastard. I don't know what sorcery he used to bewitch our minds and make us kowtow to him. He deserves to die. Everyone roared with grief and indignation as they cursed crazily. After a long time, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku gradually calmed down. Their eyes flickered with resentment. Xiao Ku lifted his sleeve to wipe the blood off his face. His face was livid with anger as he asked in a deep voice, Xiao Chong, Xiao Tianqing humiliated us like this. I swear I won't stop until I destroy his reputation. Xiao Chong was so angry that his face turned purple. He asked in a cold tone, then, what method do you have to wash away today's humiliation? Xiao Ku's eyes were filled with rage as he said with resentment, it's still the same method as back then. I want him to suffer all kinds of humiliation during the Holy Fire Festival and be expelled from the Xiao clan like a stray dog. Hearing this, Xiao Chong immediately grinned coldly. That's right. Xiao Chen's elder brother was ruined by us just like that. If not for the third elder trying his best to protect and plead for mercy, he would have been expelled from the Xiao clan long ago. Even so, he is now a lowly odd-job worker, only able to work in the mines. Xiao Tianqing, that bastard, is just a branch family disciple. Even with Xiao Han's protection, he will not be able to escape the fate of being expelled from the clan. Xiao Ku nodded and exchanged glances with Xiao Chong. Both of them revealed sinister and resentful smiles. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Linger flew out of the valley and continued to fly towards the depths of the Xiao clan. After the two of them flew out for 250 kilometers, Xiao Linger stopped and stood in the sky above a dense forest. Elder brother Tianqing, this is as far as we can go. We can't go any further. Ji Tianqing looked ahead and saw a towering mountain that was over 10,000 meters tall at the end of the horizon 50 kilometers away. That towering mountain was shrouded in white clouds and thick fog. It looked very mysterious and emitted a majestic aura that could suppress the world. It was like a pillar that supported the sky in this alternate dimension. He asked doubtfully, what's wrong? Why can't we go any further? Xiao Linger hesitated for a while before explaining softly, Elder brother Tianqing, that is our Xiao clan's forbidden ground, the pillar of heaven's mountain. It is said that the Xiao clan's old ancestor resides there. Oh. The Xiao clan's old ancestor's residence. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a playful look flashed in his eyes. Xiao Linger nodded and pulled his arm. Her eyes were clear as she said, Elder brother Tianqing, let's go back. Linger knows how to brew tea. I will brew this year's spirit heart tea for you. Ji Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. There's no need to go through so much trouble. The Holy Fire Festival is coming soon. You have to prepare well. Don't you want to leave the Shao clan? Then you can't disappoint everyone. Xiao Ling'er's eyes lit up when she heard that. She raised her head and asked, Elder Brother Tianqing, will you leave the Shao clan after the Holy Fire Festival? Yes. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. If I get the top 2 in the assessment and leave the Shao clan, will I be able to see you often in the future? Ji Tianqing only smiled and didn't answer. Xiao Ling'er was certain of the answer in her heart. She clenched her small fist and said firmly, Elder Brother Tianqing, don't worry. I will definitely get the top 2 in the assessment. I won't let you down. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, then you should go back and prepare. I will walk around by myself. Xiao Ling'er didn't doubt him at all. She quickly nodded and agreed. After bidding farewell, she flew back. Chapter 1176. Ji Tianqing came to the Shao clan to meet the Shao clan's patriarch. He didn't care about the Shao clan's Holy Fire Festival or the grudges between the young disciples. In fact, he was just a passerby to the Shao clan. He came to the Shao clan to verify one thing. Once he got the answer, he could leave without any worries. Therefore, when he found out that the Pillar of Heaven's mountain was the residence of the Shao clan's patriarch, he rushed over without hesitation. Swoosh! He passed through the clouds and landed on the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. On the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain, there was a piece of flat land with a radius of 10 miles. This piece of land was filled with dark red spiritual feather maple leaves. The red leaves were like the feathers of a divine bird and were as red as fire. Surrounded by thousands of spiritual feather maple leaves, there was a wooden house made of black soul wood. The wooden house had 2 floors and about 6 to 7 rooms. An invisible soul grade array protected the entire wooden house. Even after thousands of years, it wouldn't decay. Every room in the wooden house had its own defensive array that contained the power of space. They all had their own mysteries. In the small courtyard outside the wooden house, there was a 300-meter tall green maple tree. The tree trunk was 30 meters thick and the wide tree crown covered an area with a radius of 10,000 feet. Pieces of dark green maple leaves fell from the tree crown, sprinkling in the quiet little courtyard, making rustling sounds. Under the 1,000-year-old tree, there was a green stone table and 2 stone stools. On the table, there was a chessboard with hundreds of black and white chess pieces. Beside the table, there was a green jade pot filled with bejeweled nectar that emitted an intoxicating fragrance. A skinny old man in a black robe with white hair that reached his waist was sitting on the stone stools like a withered tree. He didn't move at all. His aura was extremely restrained, like an ordinary person. There wasn't even any aura of life on his body. He was like a piece of withered wood. Regardless of whether one looked at him with the naked eye or spiritual consciousness, one would mistakenly think that he was an old man who had passed away. However, Ji Tianqing's spiritual energy could detect that the black-robed old man's spiritual energy was as vast as the sea. He could vaguely sense that the white-haired old man's spirit power seemed to have reached the peak of the soul refinement realm and was only a step away from entering the essence soul supremacy realm. The black-robed old man sat under the tree. His white hair and black robes were covered with dozens of green maple leaves. No one knew how long he had been sitting under the tree, but he hadn't moved at all. He stared at the chessboard on the table without any ripples in his eyes. He held a black chess piece in his right hand. It hovered in the air and did not fall down. Ji Tianqing lightly stepped into the small courtyard and walked towards the Qing maple tree. The black-robed old man's back was facing him. He didn't seem to have noticed his arrival and remained motionless. Moments later, Ji Tianqing walked under the green maple tree and stood beside the black-robed old man. He cupped his hands in greeting and said, Junior Ji Tianqing pays his respects to the Shao clan's patriarch. Without a doubt, this black-robed old man was the Shao clan's patriarch. He ignored Ji Tianqing and continued to stare at the chessboard with a focused gaze. Ji Tianqing could only stand at the side and wait quietly. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The Shao clan's patriarch seemed to have finally thought of the answer. A bright light flashed across his deep eyes. Smack! The black chess piece in his right hand landed on the chessboard on the stone table with a crisp sound. When the chess piece landed, a majestic aura erupted from his body. It was as if he had just come alive. It was only then that Ji Tianqing asked, "Senior, who are you playing chess with?" The Shao clan's patriarch didn't look at him. He pointed above his head and said a word in a deep voice. "Heaven." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a playful smile appeared on his face. "Senior, you're playing chess with the heavens? This reminds me of something in the past. There was once a paragon expert who lived in seclusion and used his great abilities to observe the heavens and the world. He also set up a huge chess game in the square outside his residence and spent thousands of years playing chess with the heavens." The Shao clan's patriarch was slightly moved, and a bright light flashed across his eyes. He then raised his head and looked deeply at Ji Tianqing. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "What was the result?" Ji Tianqing smiled and raised a finger. "He won against the heavens and left." "Left, by the heavens?" The Shao clan's patriarch's expression changed. His eyes shone brightly as he asked, "That person was in essence Soul Paragon?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a serious tone, "That senior observed the heavens and the world and played chess with the heavens for 8,000 years. He went through 9 heavenly tribulations and finally broke through the void and went to another continent." "Another continent?" The Shao clan's patriarch's expression changed drastically as he stood up. He was so agitated that the white beard on his chin was trembling. He grabbed Ji Tianqing's arm and asked, "You know all this? Do you know how to go to that continent? Is it only by entering that continent can one see the secrets of the heavenly tribulations and becoming a saint?" Obviously, the Shao clan's patriarch knew very little about the other continent, but he yearned for it. Ji Tianqing shook his head lightly and said calmly, "I have just entered the soul-tempering stage and have only heard about the other continent recently. I know very little about it. How would I know the way to go to that continent?" The Shao clan's patriarch nodded slightly and calmed down. He sat back down on the stone bench. He looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly and asked in a deep voice, "You are the Ji Tianqing that Shao Han mentioned in the letter?" "That's right, I am," Ji Tianqing replied in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. The Shao clan's patriarch said calmly, "No matter how famous you are in the middle ground, it has nothing to do with me. The Shao clan has never interfered in the affairs of the continent. This old man has already ordered Shao Han to bring you here after the Holy Fire Festival. You came uninvited and trespassed into my cave abode. Aren't you afraid that I will punish you?" Ji Tianqing saw that he was showing signs of anger, but he was not worried. He smiled and said, "Senior, please don't be angry. Please listen to my story. 1,000 years ago, the ancient demon emperor wreaked havoc in the world. He invaded the middle ground and cruelly massacred millions of people. At that time, a peerless prodigy appeared in the human race. He single-handedly defeated the army of 1,000,000 demons and killed the ancient demon emperor with one sword. He sealed him in the Tianqian region. A few years later, the chaos of the demons was quelled, and this peerless prodigy became the publicly acknowledged strongest person in the continent. With just one sword, he broke all the laws in the world and killed all the strong enemies. Everyone in the world called him Kenshin." Hearing this, the Shao clan's patriarch's expression changed drastically. His deep eyes surged with light, and his expression became extremely solemn. Ji Tianqing continued, "Everyone thinks that Kenshin is arrogant, cold, and heartless. He will never take in disciples in his life. However, very few people know that although Kenshin does not take in disciples, he once guided a few young talents and taught 4 young geniuses. Among the 4, one of them happened to have the surname Shao. Senior, don't you think this is very coincidental?" After saying that, he looked at the Shao clan's patriarch with a smile. The Shao clan's patriarch frowned. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of coldness, and a majestic divine spirit power was accumulated in his body. He stared at Ji Tianqing warily and asked in a cold voice, "Kid, who are you? How do you know this secret?" Ji Tianqing looked straight at him. His chest was open, and he said righteously, "The successor of the sword god." Ha 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 ha. The Shao clan's patriarch raised his head and laughed loudly. His entire body erupted with rage, and his aura skyrocketed. Ridiculous. The sword god had already fallen 1,000 years ago. How old are you? How dare you tease me like this? Aren't you afraid that I'll break your neck? Before Ji Tianqing could speak, the ancient voice of the burial of heaven came from the broken sword. Chapter 1177. The burial of heaven's voice rang out under the green maple tree, and Ji Tianqing and the Shao clan's patriarch were stunned. The Shao clan's patriarch's body stiffened, and his expression changed drastically. His deep eyes were filled with disbelief. He thought that he had heard wrongly and was somewhat unsure. After being stunned for a while, he muttered, "What a familiar voice. Could it be the burial of heaven?" Ji Tianqing also came back to his senses. His gaze was a little strange as he looked at the Shao clan's patriarch with a half-smile. He thought to himself, "Dumbo? Why would the burial of heaven call him that?" In his opinion, the Shao clan's patriarch had single-handedly created the huge Shao clan, and his own strength had reached the peak of the spirit refinement realm. He was comparable to the human race's imperial tutor. How could such a godlike figure have such a cliché nickname? Wasn't this too down to earth? At that moment, the broken sword flew out and floated in front of the Shao clan's patriarch. The burial of heaven's voice rang out from the broken sword again. "Dumbo Shao, looks like you haven't forgotten me." The Shao clan's patriarch saw the broken sword with his own eyes and heard the burial of heaven's voice. He was so excited that his face was flushed red, and his eyes were filled with excitement and surprise. "Burial of heaven. It's really you. It's unbelievable. I didn't expect to see you again after 1,000 years." The unparalleled surprise made his excited voice tremble a little, and the white beard on his chin also trembled. The burial of heaven's tone was a little playful as he asked, "Dumbo Shao, 1,000 years have passed. Have you gone to heaven?" Ahem. The excited Shao clan's patriarch's face flushed red, and he hurriedly coughed twice to hide his awkwardness. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued when he saw his strange expression and awkward expression. He thought to himself, "What kind of joke is this? Looks like the Shao clan's patriarch had a story when he was young." To resolve the awkwardness, the Shao clan's patriarch hurriedly changed the topic and asked, "Burial of heaven, I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. How did you become like this? Why was the divine sword broken? Also, is Master really like what the legends say? Did he really fall long ago?" Burial of heaven said leisurely, "It's a long story." The Shao clan's patriarch opened his eyes wide and looked at the broken sword expectantly. "It's fine, I have enough time. You can tell me slowly. After Master left, I have been diligently cultivating day and night. I have not let down Master's guidance and teachings. Unfortunately, not long after I reached the soul-refining realm, news of my Master's death spread throughout the continent. I traveled across the entire continent and spent more than 200 years searching through all kinds of ancient ruins and forbidden grounds. I only wanted to find a way to leave the Tianxian land. I really want to verify the authenticity of the news and investigate the truth of the matter." The Shao clan's patriarch recounted the past in a low voice. His eyes were filled with reminiscence and nostalgia. Although Kenshin had never taken him in as a disciple, he had only given him pointers and taught him. However, he had always considered himself as a disciple of Kenshin. He would always remember the kindness of his teacher's teachings, and he respected and worshipped Kenshin to the extreme. Moreover, his feelings and experiences were very similar to Emperor Ye's. After he finished speaking, Burial of Heaven said calmly, "Regarding this matter, I will slowly tell you in detail in the future. After 1,000 years, I have also suffered serious damage. My memory is incomplete, and I can't remember clearly what happened back then. If you want to investigate the truth and achieve your wish, you have to do your best to help Ji Tianqing. He is our hope. What Burial of Heaven said was the same as what it had said to Emperor Yi back then. Hearing its words, the Shao clan's patriarch immediately raised his eyebrows and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. In that case, this kid is really Master's successor? Of course. Burial of Heaven said in a solemn tone, he has already inherited Kenshin's bloodline and ultimate techniques. He reached the soul-refining realm at the age of 20, and his name shook the world. Shao Han should have introduced him to you. He is the #1 genius of the human race, the #1 monster of the continent, a rare genius that even the Demon Emperor feared. His talent and aptitude are more than 10 times stronger than yours, and are on par with Kenshin back then. Only he can help you fulfill your and Yi Hengchuan's wish. The Shao clan's patriarch was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a solemn expression, and his eyes revealed deep admiration. A month ago, Shao Han sent a message, reporting that Ji Tianqing wanted to see him. Shao Han introduced Ji Tianqing in detail, saying that he was the #1 genius of the human race, the most monstrous genius of the Emperor's son. The Shao clan's patriarch was only skeptical and didn't take it to heart. But now, Burial of Heaven had personally said these words to him, and its evaluation of Ji Tianqing was the same as Kenshin's. How could he not be shocked? He had never dared to imagine that there was actually a genius in this world who could reach the height of his master Kenshin. In his opinion, this was absolutely impossible. In his heart, Kenshin was unique and irreplaceable. A moment later, he calmed down and asked Burial of Heaven, "Burial of Heaven, you mentioned Yi Hengchuan just now? You've already met him?" Burial of Heaven said calmly, "That's right. Just a few months ago, we met him in the Mangu mountain range. His situation is very similar to yours. He has also fallen into the shackles of the Essence Soul realm and has been unable to break through for 200 years. However, it's just that the time is not right for him, and his providence has yet to be bestowed upon him. When the time is right, he will naturally soar into the sky and become a supreme." The Shao clan's patriarch had lived in seclusion and cultivated bitterly for hundreds of years. He comprehended the secrets of heaven all day and played games with the heavens, all for the sake of breaking through to the Essence Soul realm. There was nothing more attractive than breaking through to the Essence Soul realm. Burial of Heaven's words made his heart beat faster, and his eyes shone brightly. He immediately asked, "When will his time be right? When will his providence be bestowed upon him?" Burial of Heaven said solemnly, "This question will depend on Ji Tianqing." Emperor Ye's providence and opportunity are on Ji Tianqing? The Shao clan's patriarch frowned and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Burial of Heaven responded and did not say anything else. Its words just now had already revealed too many secrets. The Shao clan's patriarch knew about Ji Tianqing's identity and importance, so he knew what to do next. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze and asked, "Tianqing, why have you come to the Shao clan to look for me?" Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed to him. He said solemnly, "Senior, the situation in the Tianxian continent is getting worse and worse. The tragedy and disaster from 1,000 years ago is about to happen again. 1,000 years ago, Kenshin suppressed the Demon Emperor in the Tianshan region. However, 2.5 years ago, the Demon Emperor broke through the seal and returned to his lair in the northern desert. With the Demon Emperor overseeing the northern desert, the Demon clan regained their vitality and attacked the humans, demons, and water clans with great ambition. Moreover, the bloodline curse that has always existed in the Demon clan has also been removed. The Demon clan's power is growing rapidly. Soon, they will sweep the world and the entire Tianxian continent." Chapter 1178. Faced with Ji Tianqing's request, the Shao clan's patriarch hurriedly extended his hands and helped him up. "Tianqing, please get up." Ji Tianqing insisted on bowing and said with a sincere expression, Senior, Kenshin and the demon race had deep enmity back then. Now that I have inherited the Kenshin bloodline and ultimate technique, I have also inherited his dying wish. I am at odds with the demon race and have an irreconcilable enmity. Not only do I have to protect myself and my friends, but I also have to exterminate the demon race and return peace to the various races of the continent. It is impossible for me to do it alone, so I have to ask for your help to complete this great task. The Shao clan's patriarch nodded solemnly and said slowly, 1,000 years ago, I created the Shao clan. In order for the Shao clan to continue on and not be destroyed quickly, I chose to live in seclusion here and requested the Shao clan's disciples not to interfere with the worldly affairs of the various races of the continent. Originally, the demon race was rampant on the continent and wantonly attacked the various races' territories. All these had nothing to do with the Shao clan. However, since you are my master's disciple, have amazing talent, and have also inherited my master's dying wish, I will of course not reject you. This old man promises you that when you need my help, I will personally come out and assist you. Seeing that he had finally agreed, Ji Tianqing heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed to express his gratitude. Thank you for your help, Senior. The Shao clan's patriarch smiled and nodded. You don't have to thank me. Perhaps we are helping each other in this matter. I have lived in seclusion here for 1,000 years, and finally, I have waited for you. In the future, whether I can improve further and break through to the Essence Soul realm, whether I can leave this continent, all depends on you. As he spoke, he took out 2 dark green jade slips from his interspatial ring and handed them to Ji Tianqing. Tianqing, here are 2 communication jade slips. If you need help in the future, just send me a message, and I will do my best to help. After receiving the Shao clan's patriarch's promise, Ji Tianqing was satisfied and hurriedly accepted the 2 jade slips. Then, he sat opposite the Shao clan's patriarch under the green maple tree and started chatting. The Shao clan's patriarch looked at Ji Tianqing with interest and asked doubtfully, Tianqing, I've been living in seclusion here for hundreds of years. This old man is very puzzled. How did you know that this old man had received guidance from my master, Kenshin? Ji Tianqing revealed a faint smile and explained, this matter is rather interesting. I came to this conclusion through a treasure box from 1,000 years ago. A few months ago, the 3rd prince of the imperial court held a birthday banquet and invited Xiao Han and me. I personally came, but Xiao Han didn't. He just casually took out a treasure box as a congratulatory gift. He told the Shao clan's patriarch everything that had happened. After the Shao clan's patriarch heard this, he finally understood how complicated the situation was. He could not help but reveal a bitter smile and shake his head, sigh. This is really a coincidence. Back then, when this old man was roaming the continent, I coincidentally obtained a top-notch refining material, the star sand. I placed it in a treasure box and sealed it with the array formation taught by my master. This old man originally wanted to keep this item and use it when I wanted to refine a divine artifact or dharma treasure. I didn't expect that after hundreds of years, this old man still couldn't break through the shackles and couldn't reach the Essence Soul realm, let alone refine a divine artifact. That star sand was placed there for hundreds of years. Later on, this old man also forgot about this matter. This old man also doesn't remember clearly when I gave that star sand to my children and grandchildren. I didn't expect that this item would eventually wander out and be found by you. Speaking of the origin of that star sand, the Shao clan's patriarch was filled with emotions. Ji Tianqing chuckled and said, Senior, perhaps this is the magical part of fate. If it wasn't for that star sand, how could I have guessed your identity? How could I have found you? Yes, indeed. The Shao clan's patriarch nodded slightly to express his agreement. The 2 of them chatted for a while more before Ji Tianqing stood up, bowed, and took his leave. After bidding farewell to the Shao clan's patriarch, he left the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and flew across the sky at lightning speed, returning to Tingfeng Garden. During the journey, he couldn't suppress the doubts in his heart and sent a voice transmission to Burial of Heaven, asking, Burial of Heaven, why did you call the Shao clan's patriarch Dumbo? Is that his nickname? That's right. Burial of Heaven replied and said with a playful tone, although this fellow is now a top-notch powerhouse in the continent, the Shao clan's patriarch that ordinary people rarely see, he was very stubborn. When he was young, he was very stubborn and did things very rashly, so I always called him Dumbo. Ji Tianqing nodded and asked, previously, you asked if he had ever ascended to the sky. What did that mean? Burial of Heaven's tone became even more playful. This fellow's name is Shao Wentian. When he was young, he was a martial arts fanatic. He cultivated like a madman, not knowing fatigue or pain. He once said that his greatest dream was to ascend to the heavens and explore the starry sky beyond the heavens. He wanted to roam the Milky Way. At that time, other than diligently cultivating the sword Dao, the most common thing he did was to stand on the roof like a block of wood and look up at the sky. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing immediately imagined the corresponding scene in his mind, and he couldn't help but laugh. Burial of Heaven continued. Later, he reached the heaven origin stage and could finally fly. He couldn't wait to fly high into the sky and pass through the clouds, wanting to fly beyond the heavens. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued, and he couldn't help but ask, what was the result? Is there a need to guess the result? Before he could even touch the astral winds in the sky, his true essence was exhausted and he fell head first, almost falling to his death. Ha! Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh, and said in a mocking tone, it's really hard to imagine that he had such a ridiculous experience when he was young. No wonder when you asked him if he had ever ascended to the sky, he was so embarrassed that his old face turned red. Burial of Heaven talked about a few more things about Shao Wentian's past, and Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh all the way back to Tingfeng Garden. He finally understood why Burial of Heaven gave Shao Wentian the nickname of a fool. When he returned to Tingfeng Garden, it was already afternoon. Shao Linger listened to his advice and prepared for the Holy Fire Festival's examination, and went to cultivate in peace. He returned to his room to rest for a while, and saw Shao Han return with a tired face. Thus, he greeted Shao Han. Lord Divine General, why do you look so pale? Shao Han nodded at him in return, and explained, just now, I helped third uncle refine the magic treasure, and used up a lot of magic power, but I'll be fine after a night's rest. Ji Tianqing thought for a while, and then said, Lord Divine General, I've already met the Shao clan's patriarch, and I've already achieved my goal of coming to the Shao clan, so I'm preparing to leave. Ah. Shao Han was stunned, and said with a face full of astonishment, where did you meet the patriarch? He didn't blame you, did he? Chapter 1179. My forefather had a good chat with you? He even agreed to your request? Shao Han's body trembled as he looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. His eyes were filled with shock as he could not believe it. After all, the Shao clan's forefather held a very high position and even he had only met him twice. After a moment of silence, he could not help but ask, Tianqing, I have a question in my heart, but I've been holding it in. Can you tell me what's the relationship between you and my forefather? Why did you come to the Shao clan to look for my forefather? Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and said, Sir Divine General, I do have some relationship with your forefather, but as for what it is, please forgive me for not being able to reveal it. As for the reason why I came to look for your forefather. If I told you that I want to ask him to come out and help me save the Tianxian continent, would you believe me? Ask my forefather to help you save the Tianxian continent? Shao Han was stunned as he looked at him strangely. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, Tianqing, it's fine if it's not convenient for you to reveal it. Why do you have to make fun of me? Ji Tianqing looked at him with a faint smile and said with a playful tone, I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe me. Then there's nothing I can do. Shao Han smiled bitterly and said, Our Shao clan has never interfered with worldly affairs. How could my forefather help you save the continent? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. I've finished my business and achieved my purpose in coming to the Shao clan. I'll take my leave now. Shao Han immediately persuaded him to stay. Tianqing, You don't have to be in a hurry to leave. Tomorrow night is the Holy Fire Festival, a grand festival that happens once every 20 years. Since you're here, of course you should watch the ceremony before you leave. Besides, if you want to leave now, I can't send you off or lead the way for you. Why don't you stay for one more day? After the Holy Fire Festival ends, we'll leave together. What do you think? Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and nodded. All right, since you've said so, I'll wait for one more day. The matter was settled. Ji Tianqing stayed in Tingfeng Garden for the time being. He would leave with Xiao Han after the Holy Fire Festival ended. Xiao Han's face was full of weariness. His magic power was exhausted, so he returned to his room to meditate and adjust his breathing. Ji Tianqing had nothing to do, so he went to the weapon forging workshop to watch the third elder forge a magic weapon. In order to help the third elder refine the magic treasure as soon as possible, he also lent a helping hand. Using his vast and boundless magic power, he added 2 more restrictive magic arrays on the magic treasure. In this way, the refining speed of the magic treasure would be much faster, and the power of the magic treasure after it was refined would increase by about 50%. During this process, he also exchanged insights with the third elder and learned a lot from him. Unknowingly, 12 hours had passed. When Ji Tianqing left the armament workshop, it was already late at night. As soon as he returned to the verdant pine courtyard, he saw a black shadow flash by in the dark night. The black shadow was extremely fast and agile. In the blink of an eye, it flew out of the verdant pine courtyard. Even so, Ji Tianqing's superb eyesight and powerful spiritual power were still able to detect some information. He could see that the black shadow was a middle-aged man wearing a black robe and a mask. His strength was around Sky Origin Stage LV8. Moreover, the black shadow was very unfamiliar. His movements were sneaky, and he seemed to have ill intentions. With his powerful spiritual power, he memorized the spiritual aura of the masked man and secretly detected his escape route. The masked man was very familiar with the terrain of Tingfeng Garden. After flying out of the verdant pine courtyard, he quietly avoided several sentry posts and guards and left Tingfeng Garden. Ji Tianqing's soul power silently spread out and detected that the masked man was flying in the northwest direction. He did not chase after him. Instead, he returned to his room with a calm expression and pondered silently. This man is very familiar with the terrain and guards of Tingfeng Garden. He should be from the Shao clan. If he is from the Shao clan, why is he wearing a black robe and a mask and sneaking out of the verdant pine courtyard? No one usually lives in this courtyard. Only Xiao Han and I live here. No. There must be a conspiracy. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing immediately released his spiritual power and extended it in all directions to investigate the entire verdant pine courtyard. Under the cover of his powerful spiritual power, every brick and tile, every inch of the walls and floor of the verdant pine courtyard appeared clearly in his mind. He quickly detected that there was a trace of true origin left in his room. That trace of true origin was the same as the masked man's aura. Therefore, he stepped into the room and looked around with a burning gaze. He also used his spiritual power to search carefully. After a few breaths, he found something strange on the floor under the wooden bed. On the floor in the corner of the room, a basin-sized green brick showed signs of loosening. He stretched out his hand and pulled the heavy wooden bed away. He lifted the dark green floor tile and saw a square black treasure box buried in the ground. Swoosh! He shot out a ray of golden light and wrapped it around the treasure box. He held it in front of him and looked at it carefully. He saw that the treasure box was very classical in style. Its surface was carved with exquisite patterns, and it exuded an ancient aura. Probably because the treasure box was often played with, the edges and corners had been polished and smooth. The treasure box was sealed by a powerful array, and it faintly exuded a magnificent fluctuation of spiritual qi. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a while. He started to cast a spell to break the seal on the treasure box. After about an hour, he broke the seal and opened the treasure box with a click. Suddenly, the treasure box emitted a dazzling 5-colored light, and it overflowed with a vast amount of spiritual qi. Ji Tianqing lowered his head to take a look and saw a fist-sized 5-colored crystal in the treasure box. It was translucent and exquisite as it glowed. Could it be a top-notch magic treasure? Or a gem material? He raised his eyebrows and held the 5-colored diamond-shaped crystal. He injected a trace of magic power into it. Suddenly, the 5-colored crystal emitted a dazzling light and condensed into a light screen in front of him. On the 2-meter-wide light screen, lines of ancient seal characters appeared. All of them were shining with dazzling light. Ji Tianqing looked at it and realized that the 2,000-odd words on the light screen were a profound and obscure cultivation technique. He. I didn't expect it to be a soul-level cultivation technique. Interesting. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He did not need to investigate to know that this cultivation technique was the core secret of the Shao clan. It was the most precious and priceless treasure. As for the other party's intentions, it was clear as day. You want to trick me? Then I'll beat you at your own game. Ji Tianqing murmured as he put the 5-colored crystal back into the treasure box, putting it back in its original state. Chapter 1180. 80 miles to the northwest of Tingfeng Garden was the manor where the second family lived. Ji Tianqing walked through the night like a ghost and landed quietly in the manor. There were guards both inside and outside the manor and it was heavily guarded. However, no one could detect him. Not even his aura could be sensed. After sneaking around the manor for a while, he sensed the spiritual aura of the masked man. It was in a secret chamber underground. Hence, he sneaked into the ground and stuck close to the wall of the secret chamber. He used a secret technique to investigate the situation in the secret chamber. In the dark secret chamber, there were only 2 people who were whispering to each other. One of them was a young man in a brocade robe. It was Shao Chong. The other person was a middle-aged man in a black robe with a veil covering his face. Shao Chong looked at the masked man and asked with anticipation, "Father, is the matter settled?" The masked man nodded slightly, and said with a tone full of conceit, "Of course, nothing will go wrong if I take action for my father. Don't worry, you will be able to enjoy a good show tomorrow night." Shao Chong was so excited that his cheeks turned red. He laughed coldly and said, "Hee, that's great. This time, that kid is dead meat. In order to get our hands on the First Elder's soaring white sun scripture, we have put in a lot of effort and risked a lot of danger. Luckily, the plan succeeded. Everything was worth it." The masked man nodded and said with a sinister smile, "The soaring white sun scripture is a spirit-level cultivation skill created by our patriarch. It is also the reason why our Shao family has been able to pass it down for thousands of years. Such a peerless godly skill is a priceless treasure to our Shao family. Only the first elder of each generation can control it. Even I am not qualified to take a look at it. When tomorrow's Holy Fire Festival is exposed in front of the entire Shao family, that kid will have to bear the wrath of the entire Shao family. When that time comes, even Shao Han will not be able to protect him. Even Shao Han will be implicated." Shao Chong nodded and laughed proudly. Ha. That's right. A lowly branch family descendant dares to fight with us. He must have a death wish. Outside the secret chamber, Ji Tianqing was hiding underground. He heard the conversation between Shao Chong and Shao Chong clearly. "Just as I expected, Shao Chong, that bastard, really wants to harm me. But I didn't expect that his father, Shao Zhan, would personally make a move. He really spared no effort." Ji Tianqing muttered in his heart as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He did not continue to listen to the conversation between Shao Chong and his son. He quietly traveled underground for a while and entered a room. The furnishings of this room were very luxurious. There were abundant cultivation resources stored within, and it was also filled with a dense true essence aura. That was Shao Chong's aura. This room must be Shao Chong's bedroom. Thus, Ji Tianqing stretched out his hand and pressed it into the wall. His palm was as sharp as a blade, and he cut open the bluestone wall effortlessly. He took out the treasure box from his spatial ring and hid it in the wall. Then, he rubbed his palms against the green stone wall and used his chi to smooth it out, leaving no traces behind. After doing this, he quietly left the room and left the manor. Throughout the entire process, he did not make a single sound, nor did he alert anyone. 15 minutes later, he returned to his residence in Tingfeng Garden. He sat in his room and meditated. The night passed very quickly. After dawn, the entire Shao clan was bustling with activity. Today was the day of the Holy Fire Festival. It would be held tonight at Evergreen Mountain. Evergreen Mountain was the main peak of this mountain range. It was also where the disciples of the first branch resided. There was not only a vast and luxurious manor on that 1,000-zhang tall mountain, but there was also a plaza that could accommodate 10,000 people. In the north of the plaza stood a 300-zhang tall statue of the Shao clan's patriarch. Beside the statue was a 300-zhang tall ancient pine tree. It had a history of 1,000 years, but it was still dark green and full of vitality. That ancient pine tree was evergreen. It also meant that the Shao clan would always be prosperous and evergreen. This was also where the name Evergreen Mountain came from. Early in the morning, the disciples of the Shao clan started to get busy. Countless young disciples and servants rushed to the plaza of Evergreen Mountain to clean up the fallen leaves and decorate the venue for the Holy Fire Festival. The dozens of young disciples, including Shao Ling-er and Shao Chen, were cultivating intensely, repeatedly practicing the secret techniques of the martial Tao. These young disciples were going to participate in the Holy Fire Festival's test tonight and strive to get a good ranking in the test. The rules of the Shao clan were very straightforward and simple. Only the disciples with outstanding talent and aptitude could obtain more abundant cultivation resources and receive the guidance of senior experts. Only the two most outstanding young disciples were qualified to leave the Shao clan and venture out into the outside world. For the entire day, the disciples of the Shao clan's 9th branch discussed, filled with anticipation for the Holy Fire Festival tonight. Everyone was discussing which young genius would obtain the top 2 spots and obtain the qualification to lead the Shao clan. Some people believed that Shao Chong and Shao Ku would obtain the top 2 spots. However, there were also people who felt that the top 2 spots would be Shao Chen and Shao Ling-er. Aside from these people, there were a few other genius disciples who also had a chance to obtain the top 2 spots. In short, the disciples of the various branches all had different opinions. Ji Tianqing was not interested in this. No matter who passed the Holy Fire Festival's test or who could leave the Shao clan, it had nothing to do with him. Shao Chen sat in his room and meditated until evening. Then, he walked out of his room and rushed to Evergreen Mountain. Shao Chen's expression was as calm as water. However, a thought flashed in his mind. There will definitely be a good show to watch tonight. Thinking of this, Shao Chen's lips curled up in a playful, cold smile. At the same time, a melodious voice called out to him from behind. "Elder brother Tianqing, please wait a moment." Ji Tianqing stopped and turned his head to look behind him. He saw Shao Ling-er and Shao Chen flying over as fast as the wind. The two stopped in front of Shao Chen, their faces filled with joy and gratitude. "Elder brother Tianqing, thank you so much." "Young Master Tianqing, many thanks for your help." The two greeted Ji Tianqing and bowed to him to express their gratitude. Ji Tianqing guessed the reason. He asked with a calm expression, "Have you finished refining your magic treasures and obtained them?" "Yes." Shao Ling-er quickly nodded and said excitedly, "We finished refining our magic treasures this afternoon. After a few hours of practice, we can already familiarize ourselves with them. Third Grandpa told us that if not for your help, he would not have been able to refine them so quickly. Furthermore, you specially added 2 restriction formations on our magic treasures, increasing their might by 50%. Shao Chong, Shao Ku, and Shao Shui's magic treasures cannot be compared to ours." As she spoke, a white light surged in her palm, and a sword flickering with silver light appeared. Chapter 1181. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen followed Ji Tianqing, one on his left and one on his right. The two were very close and respectful to Ji Tianqing, treating him like a god. The three flew through the night sky. Along the way to Evergreen Mountain, they met many Xiao clan disciples. The Xiao clan members from the various branches were all rushing to Evergreen Mountain in groups of 3 to 5. There were men and women, young and old. They were all filled with anticipation for the Holy Fire Festival tonight, discussing it as they traveled. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were famous people of the Xiao clan's younger generation, the most outstanding martial Dao geniuses. They attracted attention wherever they went. Along the way, people continuously greeted the two. When the crowd saw Ji Tianqing, they found him very unfamiliar and could not help sizing him up. This was especially so when Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling treated Ji Tianqing warmly and respectfully. This made the crowd even more curious about Ji Tianqing's identity. Soon, the three arrived at Evergreen Mountain and landed in the vast plaza. Thousands of people were already waiting in the plaza, which was 1 kilometer in diameter. Bonfires were set up around the plaza. The flames rose fiercely, illuminating the pitch-black night sky. About 4,000 Xiao clan members were divided into 9 regions, standing in the plaza. There was a tall arena 100 meters in diameter in the center of the plaza. A strong spirit-grade formation protected the arena. No matter how the young geniuses fought in the arena, it would not affect the people in the plaza. After Ji Tianqing, Xiao Ling and Xiao Ling arrived at the plaza, they walked into the crowd of the third branch disciples. The three stood still in the crowd, waiting for the Holy Fire Festival to start while sizing up the surroundings. The plaza was bustling with noise and excitement. Everyone was discussing, and countless people had expectant smiles on their faces. Many young disciples were also rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Naturally, Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen were somewhat excited. They were very confident about tonight's test. However, the two of them did not look around. They kept Ji Tianqing by his side, telling him about the origin of the Holy Fire Festival and some of the interesting things related to it. Ji Tianqing listened quietly, nodding or commenting from time to time. His expression remained indifferent the whole time. Suddenly, he felt a few sharp auras staring at him from the shadows. He turned his head and saw a well-dressed young man staring at him coldly from the crowd of the second branch disciples next door. That young man was Xiao Chong. He was surrounded by a group of disciples from the second branch. His expression was cold, but there was a sneer in his eyes. Xiao Ku and a few other young men of the Xiao clan were among the people of the fourth and fifth branches who were further away. They cast their cold gazes at him from time to time. Obviously, these people all had their own thoughts and were waiting to watch a good show. Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them as he chatted and laughed with Xiao Ling with an indifferent expression. Not long after, there was a commotion in the crowd, and there were exclamations and discussions. The elders are here. Get out of the way. The Holy Fire Festival is about to begin. When Ji Tianqing heard the crowd's shouts, he looked in the direction of the sound and saw a group of elders in purple robes walking over in a dignified manner. Swish. 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 A total of 8 elders passed through the crowd in the square and flew to the arena in a row. Other than the third elder, all the elders from the 8 branches were present. The leader was a tall and burly elder with white hair and a beard. This person was the current ruler of the Xiao clan, the first elder with the most authority. His bright eyes swept across the square as he raised his hand slightly to signal for the crowd to quieten down. Instantly, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the square quietened down and didn't make any noise. This was the prestige of the first elder. Every action of his could command the entire Xiao clan, and no one dared to disobey him. In fact, the first elder was the third most respected person in the Xiao clan. The most respected person was of course the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiao Wendian. However, he was the Xiao clan's patriarch and hadn't been involved in worldly affairs for hundreds of years. In the hearts of the Xiao clan members, he had become their spiritual leader and was almost like a deity. Second only to the Shao clan's patriarch was the Grand Elder. However, the Grand Elder was in seclusion all year round and rarely interfered with the clan's affairs. Therefore, the first elder, who was ranked third, was the ruler of the Shao clan. His words were the law. As everyone knows, tonight is the Holy Fire Festival that is held once every 20 years in the Shao clan. Since the patriarch set this rule 1,000 years ago, it has continued to this day and has never been changed. The patriarch's motive for setting the Holy Fire Festival is to give the young disciples of the Shao clan an opportunity to interact and improve their relationship. It is also an opportunity for everyone to showcase their strengths. Most importantly, the Holy Fire Festival is to test the results of everyone's cultivation. The first elder looked at the crowd sternly and said solemnly, "In this world, cultivation resources are always in the hands of the minority. Only the martial arts elites and geniuses have the right to enjoy and distribute resources. Regardless of whether it is the aristocratic families, sects, or any other forces, they have to follow the law of survival of the fittest. Therefore, tonight's test will determine the strength ranking of the 48 young disciples. The 2 strongest disciples would be rewarded handsomely. They would be able to leave the Shao clan and head to the central region to explore the world. The remaining 46 disciples will also enjoy different levels of resources and treatment according to their rankings. Destiny is ultimately in your own hands. Whether you live a mediocre life or shine brilliantly, it will all depend on how much effort you put in." The first elder said these words with a solemn expression. His voice spread throughout the entire plaza, causing the expressions of the thousands of people to turn solemn. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. The 48 young disciples were all motivated to the point that their blood was boiling. Their hearts were filled with fighting spirit. The thousands of bonfires around the plaza were like their emotions. They were burning fiercely and surging with high spirits. The first elder paused for a moment before announcing with a solemn expression, "Tonight's test will follow the usual practice. The second elder will start with the preliminary ranking of the 48 disciples. Only the young disciples who have reached the heavenly origin stage and above are qualified to enter the arena and draw lots to fight. This seat and the other elders will be overseeing the situation together." After the first elder finished speaking, the skinny second elder took a step forward and announced loudly, "Those who are 16 years old and have not participated in the test, step forward." Following the second elder's command, Xiao Ling, Xiao Chen, and the others immediately walked out of the crowd and walked to the arena. Within the 9th branch, there were a total of 48 young disciples standing in a circle around the arena. Among these young disciples, there were 19 females and 29 males. They were all between 16 and 35 years old. Among them, the strongest people, such as Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku, were all around the 4th level of the heavenly origin stage. As for the weaker disciples, they were all at the origin core stage and the 7th or 8th level of the Tongxian stage. The second elder's gaze swept across the crowd like lightning and quickly announced the preliminary ranking. Only 12 young disciples had reached the heavenly origin stage and were qualified to enter the arena. Chapter 1182. Let's not talk about the 36 disciples who had not reached the sky origin realm for now. The strength of these people was clear at a glance. They would be ranked according to their realms and given different resources and treatment. Anyway, the thousands of Shao clansmen in the square did not pay much attention to these people. Everyone's eyes and expectations were all focused on Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling, and the others. After the second elder announced the rankings and treatment of the 36 people, he looked at Xiao Chen and the others with a dignified gaze. There are 12 disciples who have reached the sky origin realm in this holy fire festival. According to everyone's strength, I will give the preliminary rankings as follows. First place, Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Shui are tied. Second place, Xiao Pan and Xiao Gang are tied. Third place, Xiao Ying. Fourth place. The rankings announced by the second elder were only based on the strength of the 12 disciples. The final rankings would only be known after they went up on the stage. With a schwa sound, the great elder shot out 12 rays of golden light, which wrapped around 12 jade lots, floating in the gloomy night sky. Second elder, please draw lots for the 12 juniors. The second elder nodded slightly and shot out a few dazzling lights, which disrupted the 12 golden lights and divided them into 6 pairs. The first elder took out the 6 pairs of jade lots and read out the names on them. Xiao Ku against Xiao Gang. Xiao Chen against Xiao Pan. Xiao Ling against Xiao Ying. Xiao Chong against. When the first elder finished reading out the results of the draw, everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The crowd in the square also burst into discussion. Luckily, the 5 geniuses tied for first place did not meet in the first round. Yes. Although the competition will go on for many rounds, and the strong ones will win in the end, if they meet in the first round, it will be a great loss to their strength. The top 2 of this year's assessment will definitely be chosen from those 5 geniuses. I wonder who will win. After the thousands of people in the square discussed for a while, the first elder announced the start of the competition. The first pair of disciples was Xiao Ku and Xiao Gang. Both of them were young men in their early 20s with a strong aura and were tall and sturdy. The martial techniques and secret techniques that they cultivated were mostly the same. Their styles were also violent and fierce. But the difference was that Xiao Ku was at the 4th level of Sky Origin Stage, while Xiao Gang was only at the 3rd level of Sky Origin Stage. The result was indisputable. After Xiao Ku and Xiao Gang fought intensely for 40 moves, Xiao Gang was defeated on the spot. The 2 of them fought fiercely in the arena. Saber light and sword shadows constantly burst forth, illuminating the dark night sky. Boom! The muffled sound spread throughout the entire evergreen mountain. It was very shocking. When Xiao Gang was defeated and left the arena in a somewhat sorry state, Xiao Ku revealed a complacent smile. He stood on the arena and looked down at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with a provocative gaze. Of course, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were not convinced and glared back. Next, it was the turn of the second pair of young disciples. Xiao Chen stepped onto the arena and faced a young woman with a graceful figure, Xiao Pan. Xiao Pan knew that she was not as strong as Xiao Chen and could not defeat him. In order to preserve her strength and obtain a better ranking, she rationally chose to admit defeat. Xiao Chen easily won, but no one expressed any dissatisfaction. They all felt that this was a matter of course. Soon, Xiao Ling Xiao Chong, Xiao Shui, and the other young geniuses stepped onto the arena to fight. These people were the most outstanding young geniuses of the Xiao clan. They were all at the heavenly origin stage and had cultivated profound martial techniques and secret techniques. Everyone displayed their strengths in the arena. They all executed the martial techniques they were most proficient in and used their strongest secret techniques. The ground shook and the mountains shook. Muffled sounds shook the sky. The thousands of people in the plaza were dazzled by the sight. They continuously cheered and applauded. The atmosphere in the plaza became more and more lively. The Xiao clan's people were all in high spirits as they discussed spiritedly. Even the 9 elders were very satisfied with the performance of the geniuses. They would occasionally nod their heads or give a few comments. Only Ji Tianqing stood silently in the crowd, watching the fights on the arena with an indifferent expression. The fights of these heavenly origin stage cultivators were too weak in his eyes. There was nothing to watch. Soon, 2 hours passed. After more than 10 fights, Xiao Gang, Xiao Pan, Xiao Ying, and the other young disciples had their rankings confirmed. Only Xiao Chen, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, Xiao Ling and Xiao Shui were left. The top 5 had not been decided yet. They were about to enter the final fight. The highlight of the night was about to be played. The thousands of people in the plaza all burst out in excited cheers. They shouted excitedly and looked forward to it. The second elder drew lots for the 5 people to decide their opponents. Aside from Xiao Chong, who was lucky enough to get a bye, the other 4 had to fight against each other. The first match was Xiao Chen versus Xiao Ku. When the two of them revealed hostility and stepped into the arena with cold eyes, Ji Tianqing became slightly interested. He quietly watched the two of them fight. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ku already had a deep grudge. They both swore that they would defeat the other in front of everyone on the Holy Fire Festival's arena and take revenge. At this moment, the two of them stood still in the arena. They took out their magic treasures and attacked with all their might. Xiao Ku's magic treasure was a thick black saber. It weighed 5,000 kilograms and had the terrifying power to split mountains and rivers. As for Xiao Chen's magic treasure, it was the sun and moon magic seal. It released golden sunlight and silver moonlight. Originally, Xiao Ku was full of confidence and thought that he would definitely win tonight. But when Xiao Chen took out the sun and moon magic seal, his expression changed drastically. He revealed a look of disbelief. This is impossible. How can you have a magic treasure? Xiao Chong, Xiao Shui, and the others below the arena also revealed a look of astonishment. Their expressions became very ugly. They did not expect Xiao Chen to also have a magic treasure. Furthermore, the aura of the magic treasure was even stronger. Xiao Chen curled his lips and sneered, "Even you guys have magic treasures. Why can't I have one? Xiao Ku, I have waited for this night for 5 years. Since the day you framed my brother, I swore that I would defeat you in front of the entire clan during the Holy Fire Festival and trample you under my feet." Although Xiao Ku was flustered, he quickly calmed down. He retorted with a cold expression, "Xiao Chen, don't make slanderous accusations. Your brother violated the clan's rules and was punished by the elders." Xiao Chen's entire body was surging with anger. He shouted coldly, "You and I both know the truth of the matter. Wait until I trample you under my feet, then you can quibble." As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body surged with 5-colored spiritual light. He poured his surging quintessence into the sun and moon magic seal. Overturning sky strike. The sun and moon magic seal became as big as a house on the spot. It flew into the night sky and released dozens of gold and silver light pillars that were as thick as buckets. They bombarded Xiao Ku's head. Chapter 1183. Rumble. 10-100-meter-long gold and silver pillars of light flooded Xiao Ku's figure. Xiao Ku's saber light shadow was shattered into pieces. Following a deafening explosion, Xiao Ku was sent flying, crashing into the edge of the arena in a sorry state. Fortunately, the arena was protected by a soul-level grand array. That dark yellow light shield blocked him. Otherwise, he would have already fallen off the arena. How is this possible? How do you have such a strong magic treasure? Xiao Ku asked Xiao Chen angrily as he widened his eyes in horror. Blood continuously flowed out of his nose and mouth. However, Xiao Chen could not be bothered to explain. He grinned coldly and controlled the sun and moon seals again, launching an all-out attack at Xiao Ku. Cut the crap. You will definitely lose tonight. Sun Moon Heavenly River. Xiao Chen recklessly circulated his quintessence, causing the sun and moon seals to release a gold and silver light that covered the sky. The light surged towards Xiao Ku like a flood. Xiao Ku immediately panicked. He cursed in horror as he held his saber and fled into the distance. However, before he could get far, he was drowned by the gold and silver light. The boundless gold and silver light covered his body in wounds, forcing him to flee miserably in the arena. Xiao Chen chased after him and beat him up. He could not resist at all. He could only dodge and flee. The thousands of people around the arena were already dumbfounded. They were all dumbfounded as they watched this scene. Even the 8 elders felt that this was inconceivable. They revealed shocked expressions and started discussing secretly. Isn't Xiao Chen and Xiao Ku's strength about the same? Why is the difference in their combat prowess so great? It is the problem with the dermic seal in Xiao Chen's hand. That magic treasure is too strong. I heard that the 3rd elder was already severely injured when he refined magic treasures for Xiao Ku, Xiao Chong, and the others. He is beyond cure. Why did he refine another magic treasure for Xiao Chen? The magic treasure in Xiao Chen's hand has the third elder's aura. It was indeed refined by him. But this is impossible. The third elder was already injured to that extent. How could he refine a magic treasure? Strange, this is completely illogical. Just as everyone was discussing animatedly, the outcome of the battle on the arena had already been decided. Xiao Chen attacked continuously for 8 moves and used several powerful secret techniques. Finally, he defeated Xiao Ku. Xiao Ku was beaten black and blue. His entire body was covered in blood, and he lay on the arena like a dead dog. He no longer had the strength to escape and could only gasp for breath. Xiao Chen put away the sun and moon seal and held it in his palm. He used his foot to step on Xiao Ku's chest and shouted with a cold expression, "Xiao Ku, do you admit defeat?" At this point, Xiao Ku had already suffered a crushing defeat. No matter how angry and unwilling he was, he could only admit defeat in front of everyone. "I lost." "Xiao Chen, you win." Hearing Xiao Ku admit defeat, Xiao Chen withdrew his foot. He glanced at him with disdain and walked off the stage. The great elder announced in a loud voice, "Xiao Chen has won this battle and entered the top 3. The second battle, Xiao Ling versus Xiao Chong." Xiao Ku was quickly carried off the arena. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chong flew onto the arena and stood still. The two were separated by 100 meters as they stared at each other coldly. Intense rage surged in their bodies. Xiao Ling drew her treasured sword that flickered with a silver light. She said arrogantly, "Xiao Chong, it is time for us to settle our grudges tonight. I do not wish to dwell on the previous grudges. Tonight, I will only make you kneel before my sword and beg for mercy." Xiao Chong stared coldly at the treasured sword in her hand. His pupils constricted, and his complexion darkened as he cursed, "Xiao Ling you and Xiao Chen are truly despicable and shameless, heartless and unscrupulous. The third elder is already so injured and does not have many years left to live. Yet, you actually forced him to refine a magic treasure for you. How can our Xiao clan have scum like you? You are simply not worthy of being the Xiao clan's disciples." Xiao Ling immediately revealed an expression of disdain. She smiled coldly and said, "Xiao Chong, the truly despicable and shameless people are you. If the third elder did not refine a magic treasure for you, why would he be so severely injured and suffer from hidden injuries? Don't think of stalling for time. I will defeat you in front of everyone right now and make you recognize reality." After she finished speaking, she did not hesitate to brandish her treasured sword, sending out 36 cold lights with all her might. They formed a huge plum-shaped sword flower and charged at Xiao Chong. Instantly, cold lights shot out from the arena, and the sword chi was oppressive. Xiao Chong's expression turned cold, and he quickly shut his mouth. He used all his strength to control the moon-breaking saber, sending out dozens of saber lights to block Xiao Ling's ferocious attacks. The saber lights and sword lights clashed, producing muffled pang, pang, pang sounds that echoed in the night sky. The thousands of people around the arena stared at the battlefield without blinking, holding their breaths as they watched the battle with rapt attention. Very quickly, 10 breaths of time passed. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chong exchanged 5 moves. Xiao Ling clearly had the upper hand, taking the initiative to attack. Xiao Chong was suppressed and kept retreating to dodge. He was beaten to the point that he could not raise his head, much less fight back. After 6 moves, he was injured by Xiao Ling. He vomited blood on the spot and crashed into the arena from midair. Before he could get up, Xiao Ling had already arrived before him and sent him flying with another sword strike. A bloody wound that was deep to the point bones could be seen instantly appeared on Xiao Chong's chest, and blood sprayed out from his mouth and nose. He flew out for an entire 100 meters and fiercely collided with the dark yellow defensive barrier before bouncing back and falling to the ground. This time, his injuries were even worse. He was already heavily injured, and his combat strength had greatly weakened. Even though he was filled with grief, indignation, and fury, and was unable to accept the fact that he had lost miserably. But it was meaningless for him to continue fighting, and he would only be madly ravaged by Xiao. So, he struggled to get up from the ground and was about to admit defeat. But he never imagined that Xiao would not give him the chance to admit defeat at all. She once again executed her ultimate technique, and she held the treasured sword with both hands and fiercely slashed down. Kaboom! Amidst a deafening loud sound, a silver moon sword light that was over 30 meters long descended from the sky and slashed onto Xiao Chong. Xiao Chong was struck to the ground on the spot, and one of his arms was chopped off as well, falling onto the arena. The power that could destroy heaven and earth actually knocked him out on the spot. His vision turned black, and he fell onto the ground, unconscious. If it were not for the Xiao clan's rule that it was not allowed to kill in a battle, Xiao Chong would probably have been killed by Xiao. After a long time, the silver light that filled the sky dissipated. Xiao held the treasured sword in her left hand and carried the unconscious Xiao Chong with her right hand. She dragged him like she was carrying a dead dog and threw him off the arena. Such a scene immediately made everyone stare with wide eyes, revealing a face full of shock. No one dared to believe that the always clever, and cute Xiao actually had such a violent side. Only Xiao herself knew that the reason why she ravaged Xiao Chong like this was to vent the anger in her heart. Chapter 1184. Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong were defeated one after another. Both of them ended up in a miserable state. One was covered in injuries like a dead dog, while the other was covered in blood and unconscious. Xiao Chen and Xiao performance shocked everyone in the Xiao clan. They felt that it was unbelievable. Even the 8 elders had a whole new level of respect for them. They felt that the top 2 in the assessment would definitely be theirs. Of the top 5 young geniuses, only 3 remained: Xiao Chen, Xiao and Xiao Shui. Among the 3, one of them would definitely be eliminated. The other 2 would obtain the top 2 positions and obtain the right to leave the Xiao clan. Xiao Chong was still unconscious, and Xiao Zhan was circulating his energy to save him. Xiao Ku suppressed his anger and humiliation, and stayed below the ring. His face was distorted with anger as he stared at Xiao Chen and Xiao with hatred. He muttered to himself, "We have not lost yet. There is still Xiao Shui. She still has hope." As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Xiao Shui, who was in the crowd, with high hopes in his eyes. However, Xiao Shui had her head lowered, and no one knew what she was thinking. She did not see Xiao Ku's gaze. Her expression was very ugly, and her eyes were as cold as ice. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Obviously, she was very nervous. She had seen Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong's miserable end clearly. She did not have any confidence in the following battles. At this moment, the second elder continued to draw lots. The first elder announced the results of the draw loudly: the final battle, Xiao Chen against Xiao Shui. Xiao is lucky to have a bye and will be the second place of this holy fire festival. As his voice fell, the square was filled with thunderous cheers. Thousands of people let out excited shouts. Everyone's gaze was focused on Xiao Chen and Xiao Shui. Xiao Chen stepped onto the stage confidently and looked coldly at Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui lowered her head slightly as she held the hilt of her treasured sword. Her body was brewing quintessence. When the first elder announced the start of the duel, she did not hesitate at all. She drew her sword and thrust it at Xiao Chen. That sword was fast and ruthless. It was as fast as a ray of light, and the sword soared into the sky. Her eyes were blood red, and her body was emitting a dark red killing intent. Her eyes were like 2 sharp swords that could penetrate one's heart. When Xiao Shui thrust out her sword, thousands of Xiao clan members exclaimed in surprise. The elders were also shocked, revealing expressions of disbelief. Exactly how strong is this little girl's killing intent to be able to execute such a sword strike? As expected, a woman's heart is the most poisonous. Xiao Shui has been silently enduring all this time because she was accumulating strength for this sword. Oh no, if Xiao Chen is not on guard, I'm afraid he will be injured by this sword. Just as this thought flashed through everyone's minds, Xiao Chen also made his move. He seemed to have long expected that Xiao Shui would unleash a thunderous attack, and immediately unleashed the sun and moon seal to block in front of him. The seal emitted a dazzling golden and silver light. It turned into the size of a millstone and spun in front of him. Clang! The sword light collided with the sun and moon seal, causing a loud and clear sound to ring out. Xiao Shui's murderous aura filled with extraordinary might was blocked by Xiao Chen in the end. The sword light instantly collapsed as Xiao Shui was forced to retreat a dozen steps. Her complexion turned deathly pale as dense shock gushed out from her eyes. Next, it was time for Xiao Chen to trample on her. Xiao Chen controlled the sun and moon seal, continuously releasing sunlight and moonlight. They condensed into thousands of light pillars, light blades, and sword lights, shooting at Xiao Shui like a rain of arrows. Xiao Shui was beaten back repeatedly, exhausted from defending and fleeing. She clenched her teeth tightly and persisted without making a sound, unwilling to open her mouth and admit defeat. As time passed, her quintessence was greatly depleted, and her physical strength gradually weakened. Bloody wounds also appeared all over her body. This continued until, after about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen attacked continuously for more than 50 moves. Xiao Shui's entire body was covered with hundreds of wounds. There was not a single part of her body that was intact. Dark red blood soaked her entire body, splattering on the arena and dyeing the ground dark red. She finally could not hold on any longer. After exhausting all her strength, she collapsed on the arena and shouted in a hoarse voice that she admitted defeat. The moment she admitted defeat, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the plaza were all in an uproar, shouting themselves hoarse. He won. Xiao Chen really won. Xiao Chen is indeed the #1 genius of our Xiao clan. He deserves this title. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling are indeed the strongest of the younger generation. From today onwards, the two of them can leave the Xiao clan and roam the outside world. This is too enviable. In the future, when they roam the continent, they will definitely achieve great feats and become experts that everyone will respect. The plaza was in an uproar. The bonfire burned fiercely, and the sound waves spread out continuously like the tide. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling returned to Ji Tianqing's side and excitedly reported the good news to him, bowing to express their gratitude. The two of them were very clear that if it were not for Ji Tianqing's help, they would not have the glory they had tonight. At this moment, the first elder stretched out his palms, indicating for the crowd to quieten down. Then, he solemnly announced the results. I now announce that in this Holy Fire Festival's assessment, the first place is Xiao Chen, the second place is Xiao Ling the two of them will receive the most generous rewards and the right to leave the Xiao clan. Xiao Shui, who was in the crowd, unwillingly glanced at the stage. Then, she turned around and squeezed into the crowd, quickly leaving the plaza. Xiao Ku was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He clenched his fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. He stared at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with resentment. He gnashed his teeth and cursed, bastards. Why is it like this? Why are they the ones who won? I can't accept this. Where did they get their treasures from? Xiao Chong, who was in the crowd not far away, finally woke up. When he knew the results of the assessment, he was so angry that he almost fainted. He opened his mouth and vomited another mouthful of blood. However, he quickly calmed down and muttered with resentment, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling so what if you can leave the Xiao clan? The southern desolate swamp is so dangerous. I curse you to die in the southern desolate swamp. And Xiao Tianqing, you are about to lose your reputation. Do you think that I am already in a hopeless situation? Just wait for my counterattack. At the same time, a guard captain wearing armor suddenly appeared in the plaza. This person's face was as gloomy as ice. His eyes were as anxious as fire. He quickly passed through the crowd and flew to the stage. He anxiously walked to the first elder's side and bowed to the first elder. Then, he transmitted a message to the first elder. The first elder originally had a smile on his face and was encouraging the Shao clan's disciples to work hard in the future. Suddenly, when he heard the guard captain's message, his expression changed drastically. His body stiffened as he stood rooted to the ground. He involuntarily asked the guard captain, "Is this true?" The guard captain anxiously nodded and said, "First elder, this is definitely true. Quickly go and take a look." The first elder's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes surged with a cold light as he shouted angrily, "This is impossible. The Heaven Ascension scripture has always been in my secret chamber." Chapter 1185. The great elder was so agitated that he roared in front of the crowd. The bustling square quieted down in an instant. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the great elder in disbelief. The other 7 elders were also dumbfounded. They looked at the great elder in bewilderment and couldn't help but ask questions. What's going on? Has the ancestral divine skill been stolen? How is this possible? The soaring white sun scripture has always been in the great elder's care. It has never been stolen for hundreds of years. This is too serious. We must investigate thoroughly. If any of our disciples dared to steal it, I'll be the first to punish them. That's right. No matter which branch this person belongs to, no matter what his background or reason is, we must not let him off. All the elders were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to send people to investigate. They swore to punish the person who stole the divine skill. The thousands of Shao clan members in the square were also filled with doubt and shock. They found it unbelievable and started to discuss among themselves. The great elder quickly suppressed his anger and said coldly, "All of you wait here. I'll go and check on the situation now." After saying that, he brought the captain of the guards and flew across the night sky at lightning speed. They rushed back to their residence. After the first elder left, the 7 elders on the stage gathered together to discuss countermeasures. The thousands of people in the square were discussing even more intensely. They exclaimed and cursed angrily from time to time. Everyone knew that this matter was too serious. Once it was confirmed that the ancestral divine skill had been stolen, the Shao clan would be in turmoil. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, the Shao clan would find the person who stole the divine skill and punish him. In the crowd, Shao Chong and Shao Ku were quietly treating their injuries. However, their eyes kept glancing at Ji Tianqing from afar. Both of their eyes were filled with a mocking sneer. Compared to the show that was about to come, the humiliation and failure they had suffered before were nothing. Although they didn't show it on their faces, they were sneering in their hearts. They couldn't wait to see Ji Tianqing being punished. Unknowingly, 15 minutes had passed. The great elder brought the captain of the guards back to the square with an ashen face. The noisy square immediately quieted down. Everyone turned to look at the great elder. The grand elder's body was shrouded in a layer of cold air and killing intent. With a cold voice, he said, "I've just investigated. The soaring sun scripture that has been kept in the secret chamber has indeed been stolen by someone. The soaring white sun scripture is a soul-grade cultivation technique created by our old ancestor. It is also the divine cultivation technique and capital of our Shao clan. But now, someone had actually stolen the divine technique passed down from their ancestors. Such a disgraceful act of deceiving one's master and destroying one's ancestors was truly shocking, and it had never appeared in the past few hundred years. There is no need for me to explain the seriousness of the matter. Everyone should understand." The dignified voice of the first elder spread throughout the entire square. His tone was extremely low, icy cold, and contained piercingly cold killing intent. Everyone felt a deep chill. A deep sense of reverence rose in their hearts as they looked at the great elder with a solemn expression. The great elder's gaze swept across the square like lightning. With a deep voice, he said, "It happened yesterday or today. The traitor who stole the divine technique passed down from our ancestors might be in the square right now. I will now give you a chance to repent and start anew. If you take the initiative to confess, I will be lenient and spare your life. If you don't cherish this chance and refuse to confess, I will sentence you to death when I find out the truth. The mighty sound waves spread out and reverberated fiercely in the night sky. The dull sound caused the entire mountain peak to tremble. The great elder's majestic aura caused everyone's body to tremble. A deep sense of reverence and fear rose in their hearts. For a moment, countless people lowered their heads. Their hearts were on tenterhooks, and they did not even dare to whisper. Only Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan sneered even more coldly in their eyes. The more furious the great elder was, the more complacent they felt. Everyone in the square was silent. No one uttered a word. Ji Tianqing also stood indifferently in the crowd, waiting for the development of the matter. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest secretly saw his reaction and sneered even more complacently in their hearts. Humph. This brat is still in the dark. He doesn't know anything. Little bastard, I really want to see how you react later. Will you be so scared that you cry on the spot? Ignorant brat, you probably don't know that you are in big trouble, right? The great elder waited for a moment. When he saw that no one in the square stood up to confess, he sneered. He said with a murderous look, "Good. Damn traitor, since you don't want to cherish this chance, don't blame me for being ruthless. I have placed a seal on the treasure box that contains the soaring white sun scripture, and it also contains my soul aura. I will find the treasure box later and find out the truth. At that time, you will be dead without a doubt. Now, everyone can report and expose each other. In these 2 days, anyone who has entered my house and whose whereabouts are strange can be exposed. As long as the identity of the traitor is confirmed, the corresponding informant will be rewarded with 100,000 spirit stones and a soul-level treasure." When the great elder's voice fell, the thousands of people in the square suddenly became excited. Almost everyone was shocked. Their expressions and eyes were full of disbelief and surprise. 100,000 spirit stones and a soul-level treasure. This is too exaggerated. This is simply a trump card. Such a generous reward is enough to make people lose their minds. The great elder's trick is really awesome. The traitor who stole the ancestral divine art is doomed. Report. Great elder, I want to expose the traitor. I want to report, too. Almost a moment later, more than 10 people of the Shao clan rushed out of the crowd and came to the arena to report to the great elder. The great elder looked at the crowd with majestic eyes and shouted in a deep voice, "You can report and expose, but if you maliciously frame someone, I will not spare you." More than half of the agitated people of the Shao clan calmed down immediately. They were so scared that they shrank their necks and hurriedly retreated into the crowd. There were only a few people left who were overwhelmed by the generous rewards. They shouted excitedly, "Great elder!" But face from the 8th branch, "Oh, no, Xiao Erzwang sneaked into Mount Changqing last night. I suspect that he stole the ancestral divine art. Great elder! Xiao Jinyu from the 4th branch sneaked into the back of the mountain this morning and was very sneaky." The 2 members of the Shao clan who were reported changed their expressions drastically. They were so scared that they jumped out to defend themselves. "Great elder! I am innocent. I, Xiao Ergu, no, I, Xiao Erzwang, would never steal the divine art. I came to Mount Changqing last night to have a rendezvous with Xiao Cui. Great elder! I was also wrongly accused. This morning, I was discussing life with Xiao Cheng from the 5th branch in the back mountain. The scene was chaotic. The people who reported the matter spoke with conviction and conviction. The people who were reported were scared out of their wits. They did not care about their privacy and dignity. They revealed the truth in public, hoping to wash away the suspicion. When the great elder saw that the crowd was in a mess, he was so angry that his face turned pale. He scolded the members of the Shao clan. Those who reported or were exposed were all chased away by the guards. Seeing that the square had quieted down again, no one dared to casually stand out. Just at this time, a burly middle-aged man with a majestic aura stepped into the arena. This man was Xiao Zhan. He walked up to the Great Elder and saluted with his hands folded. "Great Elder, I know a person who is very likely to have stolen the ancestral divine art." This person was brought back by Xiao Han from the third branch. His name is Tianqing Xiao. He is not a member of the main branch of the Xiao clan. He is Xiao Han's nephew. Chapter 1186. As Xiao Zhan spoke, he looked down at Ji Tianqing, who was in the crowd. He even pointed at Ji Tianqing and shouted righteously, "First Elder, it's this scoundrel. He has a vile character and is unbridled. Last night, he even sneaked into the evergreen courtyard." As soon as Xiao Zhan said that, countless people from the Xiao clan turned to look at Ji Tianqing. Many Xiao clansmen looked at him with hostility and started whispering to each other. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were stunned. They looked at Xiao Zhan and Ji Tianqing in confusion. They had no idea what was going on. At this moment, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku also stood out. The two of them rushed out of the crowd and flew to the arena. They pointed at Ji Tianqing with righteous indignation and complained about his crimes in front of everyone. "Everyone, look! This is the scum of our Xiao clan. His name is Xiao Tianqing. He thinks that he is Xiao Han's nephew and can do whatever he wants in the clan. Not only is he arrogant, but he is also violent. He even injured a few of our Xiao clan's disciples. That's right. This person is despicable and sinister. He purposely angered and insulted us. He even used tricks to injure us. Due to Xiao Han's identity, we did not dare to violate the Xiao clan's rules. That was why we endured the humiliation until now. Tonight, we will expose this despicable and shameless bastard in front of the entire clan. Great Elder, please uphold justice for us and seek justice for us." Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku shouted agitatedly. Their voices reverberated throughout the entire plaza. Instantly, the thousands of people around the square glared at Ji Tianqing with fury in their eyes. They began to discuss and curse him. In everyone's eyes, only the main clan members were Xiao clan's disciples. Those branch family members who were born and grew up outside were not considered Xiao clansmen. They were all outsiders. The Xiao clan was united. They were arrogant and had a sense of superiority in their bones. They were all hostile to the branch family members. In an instant, the crowd was agitated. Countless people were hostile to Ji Tianqing. The people around him also retreated, and the surroundings became empty. Only Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling remained by his side. Both of them were very angry and immediately stepped forward to defend him. "Everyone, don't listen to Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku's nonsense. This is framing. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku are despicable people. They are jealous of Brother Tianqing's talent, so they deliberately targeted and humiliated Brother Tianqing. Xiao Zhan. You despicable person, how dare you slander Tianqing? Show me the evidence." The atmosphere became very heavy, and the air was filled with hostility and killing intent. On the stage, the first elder stared at Xiao Zhan with a solemn expression and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Zhan. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. This young master Tianqing is an honored guest that Xiao Han brought back. How can you slander him as you please? Tonight, if you can't produce evidence, and if young master Tianqing is innocent, I will definitely punish you according to the clan's rules." The great elder's attitude was very solemn, and his tone was very dignified. The other elders also looked at Ji Tianqing with complicated expressions. Without a doubt, these elders knew Ji Tianqing's identity. He was not a member of the Xiao clan, but a genius from the Middle State Imperial Court, a popular person in the Imperial Court. After all, when Xiao Han sent a message back to the Xiao clan to bring Ji Tianqing to meet the Xiao clan's patriarch, it was approved by the elders. However, this secret was only known by the few elders. Xiao Zhan, his son, and the rest of the Xiao clan did not know about this. Xiao Zhan did not take the first elder's words to heart. He even said solemnly, "First elder, I dare to use my head as a guarantee that this man is the thief who stole the divine skill. As for the evidence, it's too simple. As long as you send someone to his residence to search, you will definitely find the ancestral divine skill." Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku also nodded and said, "That's right. We can also use our lives to guarantee that this bastard stole the divine skill." With that, the thousands of Xiao clan members were even more certain that the thief was Ji Tianqing. The crowd was even more agitated. The gazes and expressions of the elders became more and more complicated. It was to the extent that some people even looked at Xiao Zhan and the other two with eyes filled with deep pity. The first elder took a deep breath and stared deeply at Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku. He said in a low voice, "Are you really so sure? Using your lives as a guarantee?" Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan all nodded and said with certainty, "That's right. It's him. First elder, don't hesitate anymore. Quickly search his residence, and the truth will be revealed." "First elder. He is the thief. Please give the order to capture him immediately. Don't let him escape." Seeing this, the first elder did not say anything else. His face darkened, and he ordered coldly, "All right. In that case, I will go to his residence now and search personally. Second elder, fourth elder, fifth elder. You all stay here and look after young Master Tianqing, Xiao Zhan, and the rest. I will be back soon." After that, the first elder personally led two other elders to Tingfeng Garden to search Ji Tianqing's residence. The other elders stayed in the arena to look after Xiao Zhan and the other two, as well as Ji Tianqing, who was in the crowd. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan all looked down at Ji Tianqing with a complacent attitude and a sinister sneer on their faces. In their opinion, the truth would be revealed soon. Ji Tianqing was dead for sure. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling guarded Ji Tianqing on both sides. They were filled with anxiety and anger, but there was nothing they could do. The two stared at Ji Tianqing and said worriedly, "Brother Tianqing, why aren't you saying anything? They are slandering you. You have to refute them. Young Master Tianqing, you stay here. I will go and look for Uncle Xiao Han now. Don't worry, we will definitely not allow Xiao Zhan and his son to slander you." Xiao Ling also recovered her wits and nodded repeatedly. "Brother Tianqing, don't worry. I will go and look for the third elder now. They will definitely help you clear your name." From the beginning to the end, Ji Tianqing's expression was indifferent, and he looked completely at ease. Even if he was being criticized and cursed by thousands of Xiao clan members, his expression did not change, remaining calm and collected. Seeing that Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were about to leave, Xiao Chen revealed a confident smile and waved his hand. "There is no need. You all stay here and watch the show. As the saying goes, a straight man does not fear a crooked shadow. I have a clear conscience. What is there to fear? Don't worry, the first elder will get to the bottom of this." Seeing Xiao Chen so confident and calm, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling immediately felt much more at ease and calmed down. However, Xiao Chen was still not at ease. He had Xiao Ling stay behind to accompany Xiao Chen while he went to inform Xiao Han and the third elder. Unknowingly, 15 minutes passed. Under the anticipation of thousands of people, the first elder finally brought the two elders back to the plaza. Everyone's gazes gathered on the first elder, waiting for the results. Xiao Zhan quickly went forward and asked expectantly, "First elder. I was right, right? You found the stolen ancestral divine technique, right?" Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were also very pleased. They echoed, "First elder, you finally believe us now, right? This brat is a scum, a beast." However, the first elder's expression was very gloomy. He glanced at the three of them coldly and shouted, "Shut up. You maliciously slandered others. How should you be punished?" Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were immediately stupefied as they stared at the first elder, dumbfounded. What's going on? First elder? What do you mean? Could it be that you did not find the ancestral divine technique? That's impossible. There must be one. Please check again. Chapter 1187. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were confused. They did not know what was going on. Xiao Zhan's reaction was the most intense. After all, he was the one who had placed the box containing the ancestral divine skill in Ji Tianqing's residence. However, the Grand Elder said expressionlessly, I have searched his residence and did not find the ancestral divine skill. The other two elders also nodded in agreement with the Great Elder's words. That's right. We have searched Verdant Pine Yard twice. Xiao Zhan, the Grand Elder's sole imprint is on the box. This cannot be wrong. Xiao Zhan was dumbfounded. His eyes were red as he shouted, this is impossible. The treasure box must be in his residence. Even if it is not in his room, it must be in his infinite space ring. Seeing Xiao Zhan's reaction, the Grand Elder seemed to have understood something. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Enough. Xiao Zhan, shut the hell up. The three of you maliciously framed others. According to the rules, you will be demoted to servant for 3 years. This matter involves the ancestral divine skill. Your crimes are even more severe. I will demote you to servant for 10 years. When the Great Elder announced this order, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the square broke out into loud discussions and gasps of surprise. Oh my God! Isn't this punishment too severe? Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku are the elites and geniuses of our clan. They have high statuses. How can they be demoted to servant? Even if there is a mistake, this is just a misunderstanding. Why is the punishment so severe? 10 years. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku also showed expressions of anger. They unwillingly shouted, no. I don't believe this is true. Grand Elder, please search again. I will bring you there personally. Originally, the three of them had used their lives as a guarantee that Ji Tianqing had stolen the ancestral divine skill. However, the Grand Elder had searched Verdant Pine Yard carefully and did not find the treasure box or the ancestral divine skill. He did not want to anger Ji Tianqing. After all, he had offended the genius of the Emperor Palace for no reason. Of course, he would punish the three of them severely. However, he could not bear to kill the three of them. The three of them were the elites of the Xiao clan. If they were killed, the loss would be too great. Therefore, the first elder chose a compromise and sentenced the three of them to 10 years of odd jobs. However, the first elder didn't expect that before Ji Tianqing could say anything, Xiao Zhan and the other two wouldn't give up and would continue to pester him. The first elder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. In his heart, he cursed these three idiots for not knowing what was good for them. Enough. Are you going to disobey my orders? The Great Elder roared furiously. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were all stunned. The three of them were shocked to the point their faces turned pale. They obediently shut their mouths and didn't dare to criticize or resist. Although they didn't know exactly what had happened, they still didn't know. However, they knew that they had already been defeated, utterly defeated. The only thing they could do now was to admit defeat and accept the Great Elder's punishment. If this continued, any intelligent person would be able to tell that something was amiss. Xiao Zhan had no choice but to calm down. He forcefully suppressed his anger and said word by word, this junior will obey the Great Elder's orders. The first elder heaved a sigh of relief and said expressionlessly, Second Elder, you are the elder in charge of the Hall of Law. This order will be carried out by you. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku will be stripped of their status and treatment. They will be reduced to odd jobs for 10 years. Take the three of them away. The second elder cupped his hands to show that he had obeyed and was about to bring the three of them away from the stage. Everyone thought that this matter was over. Even Xiao Ling heaved a sigh of relief. She was happy and gratified for Ji Tianqing. However, no one would have thought that Ji Tianqing, who had been silent all this while, would step out of the crowd at this time. "Hold on," he shouted in a dignified tone. His figure flashed and flew onto the stage. Swoosh! He stood beside the first elder. His entire body emitted a terrifying pressure that invisibly shrouded the entire place. Instantly, the few elders who were closer to him felt the immense pressure and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were even more suppressed by the invisible pressure. They couldn't even lift their heads. Ji Tianqing displayed the domineering aura of a transcendent expert and the confidence of a peerless genius. He was as dazzling as the sun, and everyone could only look up to him. He stared sharply at the first elder and said in a deep voice, "First elder. From the beginning to the end, no matter how Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan slandered and insulted me, I didn't refute a single word. I thought that as the first elder of the Xiao clan, you would handle this matter impartially and give everyone a satisfactory explanation. I didn't expect that you would disappoint me." As soon as he said that, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the square widened their eyes in disbelief. They looked at Ji Tianqing as though they were looking at a lunatic. Cries of surprise rose and fell from the crowd. Gosh! Is this kid crazy? How dare he question the first elder? What is this guy trying to do? Xiao Zhan and the rest have already been punished by the first elder. Is this kid going to add insult to injury? This guy's aura is too strong. It's even stronger than the first elder's aura. Where did he come from? No matter how strong he is still a member of the Xiao clan. How dare he be so arrogant? What right does he have to question the first elder's authority? The first elder didn't dare to look Ji Tianqing in the eye. He lowered his head slightly and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Since you feel that my punishment is unfair, what do you want?" Ji Tianqing was expressionless and said coldly, "It's not what I want. I just want justice. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan slandered me. They even used their lives as a guarantee. Since they want to die so badly, they have to die. This is because the traitors who stole the Xiao clan's ancestral divine technique are Xiao Zhan and his son. Xiao Ku and his father are accomplices." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They widened their eyes in horror and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Everyone could see that Ji Tianqing wanted to kill Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan. He had to kill the 3 of them. The first elder frowned and said in a low voice, "Young Master Tianqing, I understand your feelings, but you can't slander them like this. There's no meaning to it." "Slander? Ha ha ha." Ji Tianqing sneered and said in a cold voice, "Then I'll ask the first elder to search the residence of Xiao Zhan and his son. If you find the ancestral divine technique, please kill them in front of everyone." This. The first elder hesitated and glanced at Xiao Zhan and the rest. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan were all confused. They didn't know what was going on. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were even smiling coldly, as if they didn't care at all. Seeing this, the first elder knew that the 3 of them couldn't have stolen the divine technique. Chapter 1188. The first elder led the other 2 elders into the night sky and rushed to the residence of Xiao Zhan and his son. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku all sneered at Ji Tianqing and didn't forget to mock him. "Kid, are you confused by anger? He, so what if you're angry? So what if you deliberately slandered us? We're magnanimous and have a clear conscience. Tianqing, you slandered us in public. You won't be able to escape punishment later." Ji Tianqing looked at Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan expressionlessly. He revealed a pitiful look and said in a mocking tone, "You're going to die tonight. Do you know how you're going to die? You're going to die because of your stupidity." Xiao Zhan and the other 2 were instantly enraged and trembling with anger. You, kid, you're too arrogant. Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered with them. He lowered his eyes and waited calmly. Below the arena, Xiao secretly clenched her small fists and looked at Ji Tianqing with eyes full of admiration. She muttered silently, "Brother Tianqing, you're too strong. Your aura actually suppressed the first elder. No matter what you do, I'll always believe in you and support you." Not long after, the first elder led the other two elders and flew back to the square as fast as lightning. Swoosh! 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 When the three of them landed on the arena, Xiao Zhan and his son couldn't wait to ask, "First elder, you've already searched, right? How is it? Can you prove that we were slandered?" "Third elder, Xiao Tianqing slandered us in public. His crime is unforgivable. You have to deal with it impartially." However, as soon as the father and son finished speaking, they were greeted by 3 pairs of eyes that were as sharp as swords. The first elder and the other 2 elders all looked at them with cold and murderous gazes. "Shut up. Audacious traitor, you're about to die and you still don't know how to repent. Xiao Zhan. I really didn't expect you to do such a thing." The angry shouts of the 3 elders resounded throughout the entire square. Everyone was stunned, revealing a puzzled and horrified expression. Xiao Zhan and his son, as well as Xiao Ku, looked at the great elder in confusion. The first elder could not be bothered to say anything. He expressionlessly took out a treasure box and presented it to everyone. This treasure box was found in Xiao Chang's bedroom. It was hidden in the wall. Fortunately, I left my soul imprint on the treasure box. Otherwise, it would be impossible for ordinary people to find it. Then, the first elder glared at Xiao Zhan and roared, "Xiao Zhan, the evidence is here. What else do you have to say?" Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were dumbfounded again. They stared at the treasure box as if they had seen a ghost. "This is impossible. How could this treasure box be in my room? We didn't do it. We would never steal the ancestral divine arts. How could this be? What the hell? Why is this thing in Xiao Chang's room?" The 3 of them were filled with fear. Their minds were in a mess, and they roared ferociously. However, the evidence was in front of everyone. Even if Xiao Zhan and his son jumped into the river, they would not be able to clear their names. Thousands of Xiao clan members exclaimed and whispered to each other. They pointed at Xiao Zhan and his son and scolded them with disdain. Ji Tianqing didn't waste any more time. He glared at the first elder and shouted, "First elder, it's time for you to fulfill your promise and enforce the family rules. These 3 stole the ancestral divine arts of the Xiao clan. They should be sentenced to death in front of everyone." "This." The first elder hesitated. He softened his tone and said to Ji Tianqing, "Young Master Tianqing, I'm afraid this is not appropriate. Please forgive us." The other elders also began to plead for leniency. "Young Master Tianqing, you are a magnanimous person. Please don't be calculative with these 3 evil creatures. Young Master Tianqing, this is a misunderstanding. Please calm down and spare their lowly lives." Xiao Zhan and his son, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan were dumbfounded when they saw that the elders were begging for mercy in front of Ji Tianqing. The 3 of them stared at Ji Tianqing with their mouths agape. They felt like their brains weren't enough to comprehend what was going on. The thousands of Xiao clan members in the square were also baffled. They were shocked and confused, and they started discussing again. What's going on? Why are the elders begging for mercy in front of that kid? It seems like the elders are in awe of that kid. Isn't this too ridiculous? That kid is the junior of the elders. Xiao Ling was also puzzled. She was even more confused. She muttered softly, "Big brother Tianqing, who exactly are you? Why is your identity so mysterious?" In the ring, Ji Tianqing glanced at the first elder coldly. He sneered and said, "All right, since the first elder can't bear to do it, I'll punish them on your behalf." As he spoke, a golden light flashed in his right palm. It condensed into a golden sword. He walked to Xiao Zhan and kicked him to the ground. He said loudly, "Traitor Xiao Zhan, you stole our ancestral martial art. You deserve to be beheaded." When he said the word beheaded, he held the golden sword in his right hand and slashed down fiercely. Puff! Xiao Zhan's neck was cut off. His head rolled on the ground. Dark red blood spurted out from his neck. A cultivator at level 8 of Sky Origin stage was beheaded by Ji Tianqing with only one sword strike. Xiao Zhan didn't even have the chance to dodge. He didn't even have the right to resist. Everyone was dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked. The square was in dead silence. Thousands of people were terrified. They opened their mouths and felt a chill down their spines. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were scared out of their wits. They stood there in a daze, trembling. They didn't expect Ji Tianqing to be so arrogant. He dared to kill Xiao Zhan in front of everyone. At this moment, Ji Tianqing kicked Xiao Ku to the ground again. He raised his sword and was about to slash down. The Grand Elder was the first to react. He shouted, "Stop it." The other elders also came to their senses. They quickly stood in front of Ji Tianqing and pulled Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong apart. "Master Tianqing, please calm down. Don't be rash. This is our Xiao clan's business. Please let us handle it. Master Tianqing, don't go too far. We Xiao clan have integrity. They may have offended you, but they don't deserve to die." The elders surrounded Ji Tianqing and tried to persuade him. Of course, there were also a few hot-tempered elders who scolded him. They were so angry that their faces turned green. Ji Tianqing glanced at the elders and sneered, "The three of them slandered me with their lives. Don't they deserve to die? Get out of my way. Whoever dares to stop me will die." Chapter 1189. Ji Tianqing alone had forced the 8 elders to retreat with just one sentence. Such a domineering and imposing aura had stunned the thousands of Xiao clan members. Their hearts were beating wildly from the shock. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were even more shocked and shocked. Their minds had collapsed, and they lay limp on the arena. Both of them were trembling like sifting chaff. They were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. They couldn't even speak a complete sentence. Ji Tianqing didn't care about the 8 elders, nor did he care about the discussions of the thousands of Xiao clan members. Swoosh! His figure flashed past the crowd and appeared in front of Xiao Chong. He kept his sword. Puff! With a dull sound, Xiao Chong's head was chopped off and rolled on the arena. He died with his eyes wide open. A gush of hot blood splattered on Xiao Ku's face. He was scared out of his wits. "Ah! Don't kill me. I don't want to die." Xiao Chong's father stole his ancestral divine skill and purposely placed it in your room to frame you. You bastard. How can you be so cruel? I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Xiao Ku ran like a madman. His hair was disheveled as he roared hysterically. He finally could not withstand the immense fear and spoke the truth in front of everyone. Of course, he was scared out of his wits. His words were incoherent and he had completely lost control of himself. Ji Tianqing did not chase after him. He extended his right hand and threw the golden sword. Thud! The sword cut through the night sky and pierced through Xiao Ku's back. It pierced through his back and heart. The tip of the sword could be seen from his chest. Xiao Ku's roaring stopped abruptly. His body took 2 steps forward and fell heavily on the arena. He twitched a few times on the ground before he finally breathed his last. He died on the spot. The golden sword that was stabbed into his body slowly dissipated. There was a deathly silence in the square. Everyone stared at Xiao Ku's corpse. Their faces were filled with fear, and their backs were drenched in cold sweat. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that Tianqing would be so arrogant and did not put the Xiao clan in his eyes at all. He actually dared to kill Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku in front of everyone in the square. This was simply shocking and audacious. In the eyes of the Xiao clan's members, no matter how big of a mistake Xiao Zhan and the other two had made, they should be dealt with by the Xiao clan's elders. Xiao Tianqing was only a branch family disciple, and he had absolutely no right to interfere with the family affairs of the Xiao clan. Everyone was silent for a moment, and then they gradually recovered from their shock. Instantly, waves of discussions erupted, and the crowd was excited. Too arrogant. Xiao Tianqing, this bastard, is simply treacherous. No matter how big of a mistake Xiao Zhan and the other two made, it's not up to a branch family disciple to punish them. Tianqing Xiao has no respect for his elders. He actually dared to kill a member of our Xiao clan in front of the statue of our old ancestor. This is an act of disobedience to the old ancestor. Elders, please take him down and deal with him according to the family rules. You must punish him severely. Not only were the members of the Xiao clan filled with righteous indignation, but the elders were also glaring at Ji Tianqing with ashen faces as they roared furiously. Young Master Tianqing, you have gone too far. You are too arrogant. No matter how impressive you are in the central region, it has nothing to do with the Xiao clan. You have no right to interfere with the family affairs of the Xiao clan. You killed our members in front of all of us. You are trampling on the faces of the 8 elders and trampling on the dignity of the Xiao clan. We will not let this matter rest. Even if we have to go to the imperial court, we will demand an explanation. Ji Tianqing looked at the elders indifferently and his lips curled into a disdainful sneer. He wasn't a bloodthirsty person, but Xiao Zhan and the other two were courting death. They had to die. The elders of the Xiao clan knew about his background, but they didn't know how high his position was. The elders had never left the Xiao clan and they didn't know about the situation in the outside world. They couldn't imagine how high Ji Tianqing's position was. Of course, they didn't know Ji Tianqing's character either. Just as the elders were filled with anger and surrounded Ji Tianqing, wanting to demand an explanation from him, Ji Tianqing suddenly spoke. A low voice full of majesty suddenly exploded in the night sky. Whoever dares to lay a hand on Tianqing will be the sinner of the Xiao clan. The voice reverberated, causing pain in everyone's eardrums and their faces to turn pale. Countless people lifted their heads to look at the sky and saw a middle-aged man in a purple robe flying in the air with a cold expression. The middle-aged man was tall and had a dignified appearance. He had a mustache on his chin and he exuded a dignified and authoritative aura. Most of the thousands of Xiao clan members didn't recognize him. However, the expressions of the 8 elders changed, and their eyes became serious. Xiao Han. Why is he here? Where did he go previously? What does he mean by that? The elders frowned and whispered to each other. In the next moment, Xiao Han flew down from the night sky and landed on the arena. He stood beside Ji Tianqing. He stared coldly at the elders and shouted, "Elders, don't blame me for not reminding you. Whoever dares to lay a hand on Tianqing will be the sinner of the Xiao clan. If anyone dares to disrespect Tianqing again, I won't be courteous to him." Once these words were spoken, the expressions of the elders turned extremely ugly. The thousands of Xiao clan members in the square started to discuss among themselves in shock. Who is this guy? Why is he so arrogant? How dare he scold the elders? He's Xiao Han, the pride of the Xiao clan? Xiao Han. Could he be the Donglin divine general who left the Xiao clan to guard the East Sea? Gosh. He's Donglin divine general Xiao Han. No wonder he dares to scold the elders. Tianqing is Xiao Han's nephew. Xiao Han is obviously trying to protect him. I'm afraid the elders can't do anything to him. The 8 elders were silent. They looked at Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing with mixed feelings. They didn't know what to do. Now that things had developed to this stage, the elders didn't dare to act rashly. They could only wait and see. At this moment, another aged and dignified voice resounded in the night sky. Ancestor has arrived. The descendants of the Xiao clan welcome you. This sudden voice immediately caused the entire square to boil. Countless people were in disbelief. Some were shocked, while others were looking at the night sky with joy. Gosh! The ancestor has been alarmed. Tianqing must be too arrogant. He must have alarmed the ancestor. The ancestor hasn't appeared for hundreds of years. I didn't expect him to still be alive. He actually appeared personally. Wow, I've lived for more than 100 years, but I've never seen the ancestor in person. Our Shao clan's ancestor has appeared. Tianqing is dead for sure. Even Shao Han can't protect him. Thousands of people from the Shao clan were discussing excitedly. In the next moment, a ball of dazzling sacred golden light flew from the night sky and landed on the arena in the middle of the square. That ball of sacred golden light enveloped two elders. One of them was wearing a purple robe and had white hair. He was the third elder. The other elder in a black robe was skinny. His white hair reached his waist, and he exuded a mysterious and vast aura. He was the Shao clan's ancestor, Shao Wentian. When Shao Wentian arrived on the stage with the third elder, Shao Wentian was stunned. The thousands of Shao clan members in the square all knelt on the ground and paid their respects. Regardless of whether they were ordinary clansmen, the 8 elders, or divine general Shao Han, they all knelt on the ground and paid their respects. After all, they were all disciples of the Shao clan. They were all descendants of the Shao clan's ancestor. Only one person stood proudly on the arena and didn't kneel down. Chapter 1190. The appearance of the Shao clan's patriarch made all the members of the Shao clan extremely excited. Everyone knew that the Shao clan's patriarch had not been involved in worldly affairs for hundreds of years. Only a few of the members of the Shao clan had seen the true face of the Shao clan's patriarch. To most of the members of the Shao clan, being able to see the patriarch with their own eyes was the greatest wish and surprise of their lives. In an instant, thousands of people knelt on the ground respectfully and bowed their heads deeply. They welcomed the arrival of the Shao clan's patriarch with the most sincere attitude. Even the honorable divine general Shao Han, who had limitless glory in the middle state, was respectful and humble to the Shao clan's patriarch. As such, Ji Tianqing, who was standing proudly on the arena, became the most conspicuous and eye-catching one. Many people glared at him when they saw this scene. They cursed him in their hearts for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. He didn't even kneel before the great ancestor. Many members of the Shao clan cursed him in their hearts, hoping that he would be severely punished by the patriarch. However, no one expected the Shao clan's patriarch to not be angry at all when he landed on the arena. Moreover, he even walked to Ji Tianqing and stood in front of Ji Tianqing. He nodded slightly at Ji Tianqing as a sign of respect. Seeing this scene, all the members of the Shao clan were dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded. No one could believe that the honorable Shao clan's patriarch, who was as powerful as an immortal, would nod at Ji Tianqing as a sign of respect. This was simply too shocking. Countless members of the Shao clan would rather believe that the sun rose from the west than to believe this scene. It was so much so that many people had an absurd thought in their minds. Is this mysterious black-robed old man really our Shao clan's patriarch? Could it be that he's an imposter? This thought flashed across everyone's minds and was quickly thrown to the back of their minds. After all, the black-robed old man's white hair reached his waist. His eyes were as deep as the stars, and he exuded a mysterious and vast aura that was connected to heaven and earth. This was a unique aura that only an extraordinary expert, an elder who had experienced the vicissitudes of life, possessed. The Shao clan's patriarch finally spoke. He looked around and the first sentence that came out of his mouth stunned everyone in the Shao clan. I believe that at this moment, most people are wondering why this guy named Tianqing doesn't kneel down and greet him. These words clearly resonated with the hearts of thousands of people. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the Shao clan's patriarch. Their eyes were filled with anticipation as they desperately wanted to know the answer. A playful smile appeared on the wrinkled old face of the Shao clan's patriarch as he calmly announced the answer. Because his surname isn't Shao at all. Our Shao clan is not qualified to have such a monstrous genius. The voice of the Shao clan's patriarch was not loud, but it clearly spread out within a radius of 5 kilometers, allowing everyone to hear it clearly. Suddenly, the thousands of people in the square all showed an expression of sudden realization, exclaiming and discussing. I see. This fellow isn't from our Shao clan. That's why he didn't greet the old ancestor. No wonder this guy is so arrogant. He actually dared to kill Shao Zhan, his son, and Shao Ku in front of our entire tribe. That's not right. This fellow isn't from our Shao clan. What right does he have to enter our Shao clan? This has broken the rules set by the old ancestor. Shao Ling-er's expression changed as well. Her clear eyes widened, revealing a look of as expected. Just as I expected, Brother Tianqing isn't from our Shao clan. No wonder he's so monstrous. When has our Shao clan ever produced such an outstanding genius? When thousands of Shao clan members were discussing, the Shao clan's patriarch pointed at Ji Tianqing and said in a deep voice, he's the #1 genius of the human race. He's also the #1 genius of the monarch mansion. He's the pride of the human race. He's also my friend. I haven't cared about worldly affairs for hundreds of years. I've been in seclusion, comprehending the mysteries of heaven, just to wait for his arrival. After hearing this news in secret, everyone in the Shao clan was inexplicably shocked as they exclaimed. Even the elders were shocked to the point that they were dumbstruck. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Gosh! This fellow is actually friends with our old ancestor? How is this possible? Our old ancestor has lived for thousands of years. This fellow is at most 20 years old, right? Are you guys dumb? Didn't you hear what the old ancestor said? He's been waiting for this fellow for hundreds of years. This is too inconceivable. It's just like a fairy tale. No wonder Shao Han personally led this fellow into the Shao clan. No wonder this fellow is so arrogant and doesn't take the elders seriously. Oh my gosh. The #1 genius of the human race and the old ancestor's friend. What kind of freak is this fellow? I just want to know what's this fellow's name. Ji Tianqing ignored the thousands of Shao clan members and looked at the Shao clan's patriarch calmly. He asked with a playful smile, Senior, I just killed 3 disciples of the Shao clan in front of everyone. The 3 of them are your descendants. Aren't you afraid that your descendants will have an opinion if you say that I'm your friend? As he spoke, he glanced at the corpses on the arena. The corpses of Shao Zhan, Shao Chong, and Shao Ku were already cold, but they were still lying on the arena. The Shao clan's patriarch didn't even look at the corpses. He looked at Ji Tianqing calmly and said, the huge Shao clan has existed for thousands of years and has many descendants. I have too many descendants. If there aren't 10,000 of them, there are at least 8,000 of them. There are some geniuses and elites among my descendants. Some are righteous and some are kind and benevolent. However, there are too many people, and it's inevitable that there will be some inferior scum. If they're dead, they're dead. People have to bear the corresponding consequences for their mistakes. The Shao clan's patriarch's tone was very calm. His words revealed a sense of vicissitudes of life. At the same time, his words also put an end to this matter. The 9 elders and thousands of Shao clan members understood that the Shao clan's patriarch didn't care about the deaths of Shao Zhan and the other 2. After all, the patriarch had tens of thousands of descendants. What kind of blood ties could there be? Shao Zhan and the other 2 used a despicable scheme to murder Ji Tianqing. They deserved to die. All in all, Shao Zhan, his son, and Shao Ku died for nothing. Not only would they not receive the sympathy of the crowd, but they would also be cursed. The thousands of Shao clan members present gradually woke up from their shock. Everyone whispered to each other for a while, and then they basically understood the matter. Shao Zhan and the other 2 provoked someone they couldn't afford to offend. As for Ji Tianqing's background and why he was friends with the Shao clan's patriarch, it became the biggest suspense and mystery. Everyone racked their brains to guess and reason, but they couldn't think of a reason. The Shao clan's patriarch didn't say much. He instructed the first elder and bid farewell to Ji Tianqing before turning to leave. This matter came to an end for the time being. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.